My girlfriend refused to get a tetanus shot after she had a really bad injury, so I tricked my girlfriend into going to the doctor just so she could get a life-saving tetanus shot. But now, once it's all said and done, she's officially blocked me on everything and is refusing to talk to me. And at this point, I'm so afraid that my relationship is probably over and I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, to give some context, my girlfriend tripped on her patio the other night and fell right onto a very dirty and rusty iron rebar rod. You know, the kind of rod that they use for concrete pillars. It punctured her palm about 1/4 of an inch deep, and when I asked if she had ever had a tetanus shot, she said she never had. Now, she didn't tell her parents and just did some basic first aid, which was at her hostel, but the next day she told me she was feeling feverish. So, because of a rusty puncture wound, plus no vaccine, plus having a fever, all of that added up to a major red flag for tetanus, so I decided to take her to a clinic. I knew she wouldn't go to the doctor willingly, so I took her myself. I told her we were going out to get some general fever medicine, and we would get her wound checked properly, and after that we will go and get some food. But you know what? I drove her straight to the clinic. The doctor then confirmed that she needed the vaccine, and when she was told this, she was furious. She said no to that, but eventually got the shot when the doctor told her the consequences. She cried like a baby when the needle got inserted and was visibly shaking. The procedure was less than like 5 seconds, if that. I paid the bill, and when I tried to hold her hand to take her to the car, she walked by herself, and she didn't even reply to any of my questions. When I asked where she wanted to eat, she told me to just drop her off at her place. She didn't say goodbye, and once I got home, I realized that she had blocked me everywhere. Now, here's the thing. I didn't diagnose her. The doctor did. The doctor recommended the injection and the medicines. I didn't. I already told her we are going for a checkup. So what is the point of getting upset after that? But honestly, I think she's just mad because she didn't expect an injection. It's been 24 hours and I want to apologize, but I can't reach her. I can't show up at her hostel because the hostel dean might call her parents, which she's trying to avoid altogether. So seriously, how do I convince her at all? Should I call her on her friend's phone? Should I send like an apology letter or a gift of some kind? What should I do? Okay, honestly, your girlfriend is being way over the top here. There is no reason for her to be pissed off at you, because in reality, you probably saved her life. Because yes, in case you're wondering, you absolutely can die from tetanus. That is something that can take you out, and it is a horrible way to go, apparently. So yeah, you weren't like completely honest about where you were going, but holy crap, I think I would lie to someone as well just to save their life like that. Because this is one of those situations where it's like, yeah, you really do need to get some medical care like right now. This is no time to be stubborn. Your life is literally on the line if you don't take care of this. So when it comes to like you thinking that you tricked your girlfriend, I don't think you tricked anybody. Like you said, you're not the person who gave the shot, you're not the person who diagnosed her, you didn't give her medication, and you definitely didn't hold her down to get the shot at all. Instead, you took her to the doctor who said, hey, this is going to end your life if you don't take care of it. And that was thankfully enough for her to be like, okay, fine, I'll do it. So maybe she's just upset because she got an injection that she didn't want to get. Like, I can understand that. But for her to be upset and be like, wow, this is your fault, and then try to be upset about this by like blocking you everywhere, that is incredibly immature and just so stupid. So in my opinion, if she really wants to break up with you after you saved her life, then so be it. You can absolutely find someone better who will appreciate you for doing the right thing. And in my opinion, this was the only thing to do, because this could have ended really badly and it would have been your girlfriend's fault for not doing something sooner. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My roommate is recovering from a surgery that has them on an extremely bland and strict diet. But after I ate their favorite food while they're recovering, they said that I'm a jerk and that I need to be more considerate about the things that I eat in front of them. And at this point, I'm kind of frustrated by everything going on and the fact that they would say that to me. And now I'm not sure if I'm the jerk or not, and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my roommate recently had surgery and they've been on an extremely strict diet that consists of like really bland foods. They've been pretty bummed out about not being able to eat these things that they enjoy for the last few weeks or so. Now, I work an intense job that requires me to work semi-late, especially one night a week in particular, where I have to literally travel to our furthest office. This drive takes at least an hour each way. Therefore, I'm not home until like 8 o'clock at night, and I will be so hungry and exhausted by that point. Usually on these nights, I'll treat myself by getting delicious takeout and enjoying it while watching a show to wind down for the night. And last night, I got a meal that I was craving, and it just so happens to be one of my roommate's favorite foods. foods. I ate it in the living room while we watched TV, then placed the leftovers in a fridge totally separate from theirs. I made no big thing to rub it in their face or anything like that at all. Well, the next morning they were very passive-aggressive and claimed I was being inconsiderate for eating food that they like in front of them. This roommate expects all of us living there to not eat things they like while they're recovering, because according to them, they say it's inconsiderate. I feel like I work hard and I can eat whatever I want as an adult, because, surgery doesn't entitle you to control other people around you. So, am I the jerk for the food I ate around my roommate while they recovered? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your roommate's just salty at the fact that, yeah, you can eat this food and they can't. And yeah, it sucks, but guess what? That's not your problem. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, and I think your roommate's just being a little bit weird. Am I the jerk for guilt-tripping my mother-in-law about not eating my cooking in the exact same way that she does to me? Because watching her react in the way that I did when she put the pressure on me was incredibly satisfying and very enjoyable to watch. Here's what happened. To start things off, my mother-in-law is very proud of her cooking, and if I'm being honest, some of it is really good, but a lot of it is just not to my taste. She makes very rich and heavy dishes with a lot of spices that I didn't really grow up with, and my stomach doesn't always handle well. I try to eat what I can, and I'm always polite about it, but sometimes I just can't finish a plate, or I say that I'm just not that hungry. The problem is that she takes it personally every single time. She'll give me this look and say things like, "Oh, so you just don't like my cooking?" Or she'll say, "Well, everybody else loves my food, why don't you?" It puts me in such an awkward spot, and even though my husband usually steps in to redirect her, it still makes me feel guilty and uncomfortable. The thing that really gets me is when I first met her, she told me point blank that she doesn't like the kind of food I grew up eating. She didn't even try it, but just said that it's not for her. I thought that was kind of rude, but I let it go because I figured people have preferences and that's fine. But after months of her making me feel bad for not finishing her dishes, while she openly refuses to touch anything from my background, I decided to finally flip it on her, because this is where I started bringing food that I made anytime that we visit. I would walk in all excited, talking about how I spent hours on this, and I really hope that she likes it, and I can't wait to hear what she thinks about it. And every single time, without fail, she suddenly wasn't hungry, or she'd say that she would try it later and then just never did. So I started giving her the same energy that she gives me. I would look a little sad and I would say, "Oh, you don't like my cooking?" Or I'd say, "Well, I just made this just for you and you're not even gonna try it?" And my God, watching her scramble to make excuses while knowing exactly how I feel every single time she does the same thing to me was a different kind of satisfaction that I will always treasure. But you know what? I guess this worked, because ever since then, she hasn't guilt-tripped me one single time about food. But seriously, I need to know, am I the jerk for turning this against my mother-in-law and giving her a taste of her own medicine? Because regardless, I feel really good about this, but I just want to know what other people think. Okay, in my opinion, this is exactly the way you should handle this kind of situation. You literally flipped the script and said, "Oh, okay, you want to guilt-trip me about not eating your food? Congratulations, I'm going to do the exact same thing to you." So no, you are not the jerk, and honestly, I love the way you handle this. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my roommate pay for her speeding ticket, as she's demanding that I do it since she says we're like a family and we need to help each other out? But now that I've said no, she's become very passive-aggressive and incredibly cold to me. And at this point, I don't know if I'm the jerk and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female and I really need some opinions because I'm not really sure if I'm the jerk here. For some context, I live with my roommate, who I will call Jess, and we've been living together for about a year. Now, usually it's fine, but I will say she is really reckless with money. Last week, she got a $400 speeding ticket and comes in panicking, asking if I can front her the money till her next paycheck. Well, I told her that I can't do that as I'm on a tight budget and I don't like lending money I can't afford to lose. When I said this, she got mad at me and said that she thought we were like a family and that I would help her out. I said helping with small stuff is fine, but $400 is a lot of money. Plus, I shouldn't be responsible for her bad choices. Well, she then spent the next couple of days dropping passive-aggressive comments about me, saying that I'm stingy and not a good friend in front of our other roommates. She even said that I'm the kind of person who lets people suffer instead of helping them out. And honestly, I feel like I did the right thing here. I'm not her parent and I don't have to pay her ticket, but now it's awkward at home and she's giving me the silent treatment. So am I the jerk for not paying for this ticket? Because honestly, I don't feel like I have to, but I really just don't know what to do from here. Okay, your roommate's being so selfish right now. They're the kind of person who makes mistakes like this on a daily basis and not only expects you to bail her out, but also is gonna guilt trip you you if you say no. Like, holy crap, lady, just be accountable for your actions. Don't drag me into it. What do I have to do with your $400 speeding ticket? Like, what's happening right now? Because here's the thing, and I could probably predict this. I guarantee you that if you did loan out that $400, you would never see it back ever again. She would probably take it and run and then wait a few months and then expect you to pay for the next thing that's happening in her life. That, by the way, she probably did to herself. So no, you're not the jerk. She's just trying to guilt trip you by being like, oh, we're like a family. I can't believe you. Because I guarantee you, if the shoe was on the other foot and you were asking her for money, she would probably spout off something of like, oh wow, you're being really selfish for asking money from me. Because Jess in this story sounds incredibly selfish and very entitled. And it really seems like that's going to be a pattern pretty much no matter what happens to her. Am I the jerk for not driving my colleague home from work? All because she literally has so many other options of getting home that she just refuses to take up. Here's what happened. I'm a 33-year-old male and I'm the manager of a cafe, and about 2 years ago we hired a high school student who I will call Grace, who at the time was 16 years old. Now, Grace relied on her mother to take her to and from work. However, the last 18 months or so, her mother's become very flaky with picking her up from work, often texting her an hour before she's meant to finish with some lame excuse as to why she can't pick her up from work, and that she'll have to find someone else from work to drop her home. The excuses, by the way, are never reasonable, like, oh, I have to work late or something like that, as her mother's actually unemployed and takes advantage of government unemployment benefits. So her excuses are actually like, oh, I'm going to the movies, so I can't pick you up right now. Whenever Grace asked for a lift home, either one of my other colleagues or myself would begrudgingly just take her home, as she was technically a child at the time, and we morally couldn't leave her stranded. I always told myself, however, that once she turns 18, which is legally an adult in my country, that I would stop taking her home as she is now old enough to fend for herself. Well, Grace is now 18 as of last month, and the day finally came that she asked me for a lift home, but I stood my ground and I said no, I can't take you home. Now, please keep in mind, she has multiple options for getting home. She could take the bus, which, by the way, the bus stop is right outside of our work, and there's one around the corner from her house, and there's buses that come and go like every half hour. She can also take a rideshare like Uber, or worst case scenario, she can walk. Like, her house is literally a 20-minute walk away from work. And it's not like we're finishing at 2 o'clock in the morning. We literally finish at 3:30 in the afternoon, and her walk home would be in broad daylight in an upper middle class area with no real danger. Even worse, she's old enough to get her driver's license and even owns a car. But when asked why she doesn't go for her license, she says, oh, I don't need it. Grace seemed upset when I told her that I wouldn't drop her home, but I think it was a good life lesson for herself and a parenting lesson for her mom. But when I got home from work, I felt a bit bad about the situation, and I asked my roommate if I had done the right thing, and he said that I was a jerk and I should have just taken her home instead of being stubborn, and apparently it's not my place to give life or parenting lessons out to people who don't ask for it. So I come to the internet to try and find some kind of answer. Am I the jerk for not giving my colleague a ride home from work? Because right now I'm kind of having mixed feelings about it, and I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Okay, let me make sure I understand this correctly. You're telling me that Grace not only has a car, but she also has multiple avenues of getting home, and yet she's still refusing to take any of these up? Like, my God, there's no excuse for this. Grace is literally just being super lazy for no good reason. She's sitting there trying to be like, I don't have a ride home, I'm gonna be stranded. When it's like, bro, I can probably squint and see your house at the end of the street. Are you kidding me right now? I'm not gonna give you a ride home. You can go there yourself. And also, she has a car, like she has one she can use. So instead of taking the initiative and getting a license of some kind, she sits there and says, oh, I don't need it because my mom can give me a ride and you guys can give me a ride. Like, my God, what are you doing? You need to get up and get going already. And that includes getting your license. Like, what teenager doesn't want to have their license so they have freedom to go wherever they want? Or even the opportunity and independence of like doing your own thing whenever you feel like it. So no, you're not the jerk at all. This is absolutely a life lesson that Grace needed to learn sooner than later, because the way she's operating right now is just lazy, and there is absolutely no good excuse for that. I am legitimately considering disowning my mom after all the crazy things she put me through throughout my entire childhood. Here's what happened. To start things off, I'm an 18-year-old female, and I will soon be graduating high school, but I have not made definitive plans for college. I will likely choose to live in a dorm because I'm at my breaking point with my mother. For a bit of background, I am an only child, my parents are divorced, and my dad lives over an hour away. So it is just my mom and I. My mom has suffered from OCD and hoarding disorder throughout my entire childhood. bad. Growing up, I was never allowed to touch anything in my kitchen. I understand children should stay away from the stove, the knives, etc. But if I so much as touched the fridge or counter, I would get screamed at. I could not even get myself water or a snack. All of this had to be done for me by my mom. At the age of 12, I was adamant that I needed more freedom when it came to our kitchen. Because seriously, what 12-year-old should be asking their mom every time they need a glass of water? But after much convincing, she allowed me to start using the kitchen. And this is when she stopped cooking for me entirely. Pretty much every meal since, I have to make it by myself. And every day, I eat alone in my room as she doesn't allow me to eat at our dining table. She also has these types of rules for pretty much everything in the house. For example, there's a chair in our living room that is strictly hers. If I touch it, she'll have to wash the covering on it. I haven't seen her so much as sit on our couch or my bed in years as she finds them dirty. And it's this alongside with not allowing shoes in the house, having to clean the bathroom anytime after someone comes over and uses it, and having to wash my hands after picking something up off the floor. Like, these are only a fraction of the rules and obsessions that she has. And I'll definitely spare you the details on the other 100 rules that I've easily had in my life. Basically, what I'm trying to convey is that it's a nightmare living with her. Anytime I do something slightly different than how she wants me to do it, I will automatically get screamed at. Now, as I previously mentioned, she is also a hoarder. No, our house isn't like a stage 5 hoarded home with trash piled to the ceiling, but it is a big issue. She will not allow me to get rid of any of my childhood toys, my books, or clothing, which means that our spare bedroom is filled to the brim with all of this junk to the point that you can't even walk in it. I've even found her drawers filled with 20-year-old receipts and coupons. Because we have so much unnecessary clutter in my house, I usually stay in my room, which has become basically my safe space. Being around her and this mess is extremely stressful. So at this point, I'm barely able to have a relationship with her. Like, I literally cannot stand another day in this house. My dad recently moved in with his girlfriend, and he hasn't really been open to me staying with them. Even though I have expressed to him my many issues with my mom, I don't think he fully grasped how bad things really are. So for the time being, I'm kind of stuck here. When I eventually move out, I am strongly considering going no contact with her. In the past few years, she's even been guilt-tripping me about leaving her alone when I just go out with friends or do something with my dad, even though these things are not that often. She pretty much has no friends or family other than me at this point, so I do feel guilty leaving her alone. But with everything she's put me through, I simply can't find it in myself to care about her. What should I do? Okay, I want to say first and foremost that your mom's a terrible person, and I'm basing this opinion not just on the things that the original poster shared in this story, but more importantly, I'm basing it off the things that I couldn't share in this post. Like, holy crap, there are some things that the original poster went through that their mom did that are just incredibly weird. It's stuff I really wish I could share, but I definitely cannot put on the channel, so trust me when I say this, the mom is a terrible person. So to that extent, I am so sorry for all the things your mom put you through. When you talk about like going no contact with your mom and feeling guilty about that, and how she has no other friends or family, honestly, I think it's really important to note that that is all just manipulation tactics, and that's her way of making you stick around as long as possible. She clearly loves this sense of control she has over you, and so you sticking around and never leaving the house is her opportunity to continue having like this thumb over your life. Like, that really sucks. So hopefully you're able to go to college and have a new place you can live in and find some kind of plan of getting away from her permanently, because what she's done to you is unacceptable and you definitely deserve to live a peaceful life away from your crazy mom. I accidentally had my baby in my friend's car right as we were rushing over to drive me to the hospital. But now my friend's husband is pissed off at me, saying that I ruined his car and has essentially cut off communication between me and my friend. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I'm very aware this sounds ridiculous, but I'm so tired of worrying about this because I really just need some outside perspective. Now, about 2 weeks ago, I was almost 38 weeks pregnant. My partner left for an afternoon to help out her brother, and my friend, who I will call Alice, offered to come spend the day with me, so I wasn't alone. Honestly, it was really nice to have her there. We just watched some movies and hung out, and even though I was so uncomfortable through the day, I didn't consider that I might be going into labor, especially since I had been feeling this discomfort for ages. Well, at some point, we did finally realize that this was the real deal, and at this point, I called my wife. We considered waiting until she got back, but things started to get real very fast, and I asked Alice to drive me to the hospital. Well, we didn't fully make it to the hospital, and I ended up having my my daughter in her husband's car, and luckily we're both fine. I had a few complications which are now okay, and our baby is beyond perfect. And though my wife is having a hard time with having missed her birth, we now have a wonderful tiny human to focus on. Well, things have been really messed up with Alice and her husband though, and I don't know how to solve it. 2 days after all that happened, I sent her a message thanking her again for everything she had done, and I told her in a lighthearted but sincere way to please send me a bill for having the car cleaned. Now, she didn't really reply for a while, and in the end just liked the message. I've messaged her a few times ever since then, and she still hasn't replied. Eventually, her husband sent me a message saying not to message her, but added in, "Oh, congrats for the baby, but thanks for ruining my car." And right now, I just feel so lost. And please, don't get me wrong. Of course, my priority is with my little family right now, but this does keep crossing my mind. Like, this is really unlike her. Her husband and I were never really the closest. I mean, I don't love how he speaks to her sometimes, but still, we were friendly with one another. So at this point, I don't know how to solve this. Did I just traumatize her so much that I now need to leave her alone? Do I keep trying to reach out? I'm so grateful for all that she's done that day, but at this point, I'm seriously lost and I just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think the problem is with Alice at all. From the sounds of it, it seems like Alice is one of those friends where it's like, oh, you're gonna be by yourself and you're pregnant? Of course I'm gonna come over and help you out. Like, she seems like a nice person who just absolutely had the right intentions being there. So in my mind, I don't think she's the problem. Instead, I think the husband is the problem. He sounds like a piece of garbage who clearly talks to his wife in a really poor way, so it's probably not Alice that's having an issue with you, but instead her husband is the one getting in the way and acting like, oh yeah, she's a terrible person. How dare she give birth in my car? Like, bro, first off, that was not planned. It's not like you were sitting there saying, oh, I can't wait to give birth in that car and ruin it. Like, no, of course not. Like, come on, what are we talking about here? You literally had no control over when this baby was gonna show up, and you definitely weren't expecting it at 38 weeks. But I will say, his response of like, wow, thanks for ruining my car. Don't contact my wife ever again. Like, that for me screams, oh yeah, this guy's a narcissist and he's in control of that relationship, whether Alice likes it or not. So if I was in your shoes, I would take a step back and say, okay, I'm just going to focus on my family. There's nothing I can do about this. This is completely out of my hands, because truly, I don't think there is anything you can do about it. I think if anything, I would just be ready to pay for whatever repairs need to be made to the car if this guy ever does end up sending you a bill, which based on the way he's described, I'm sure he would happily send one over. My entitled dad takes my inheritance that I got from my deceased mother and spends it all on frivolous things, claiming that I owe him money for all the times he paid child support for me and that he deserves that money way more than I do. And now, as a result, I am now considering cutting my dad out of my life completely, because right now I am so upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female and I just moved away, and while living with my father, he was constantly borrowing money from me or just straight up stealing my money without asking. I've been working since I was 16 years old, and I don't recall a single paycheck where he hasn't borrowed most of it. He has put our shared account in the negative so many times. He always claims it's because he has no money or just can't afford a bill, and this has become frustrating over time because I was never able to save up for anything. I tried hiding cash, opening up new bank accounts, and yet somehow always the money was found out about because he would track when I got paid, how much I would be paid, and question where the money went. If I lied, I would be scolded for irresponsible spending. It got to the point where I was watching him make financially irresponsible decisions and him falling back onto me and making it my problem. And as a note, I paid for all of my own bills and all of my own stuff. My mom passed away when I was 17 and I inherited money, and I wanted to use this money to move when I graduated high school. My parents were separated when my mom passed, and they were never together. My dad lived in another state, and I moved with him when I was 15 years old because he said he was going to take my mom to court because he felt he was a better fit as a parent. Prior to that, I rarely even ever heard from him. I saw him maybe twice a year. My dad disagreed with the idea of me using the money to move back home and that I would only need about 5% of it to actually move. His idea was for me to pay his car for him and to pay off half the mortgage to our house. He claimed that he would build a new house the next summer and I would have a master bedroom. Since we were living in a rundown old farmhouse, it needed to be severely remodeled or just knocked down. I mean, it had holes and cracks in all of the walls. He would tell me things like I'll never be able to live on my own and try to convince me that my family back home doesn't care that much about me. I felt hurt and really confused. I ended up just agreeing to the idea, thinking to myself that at least I'll have a car and a house. Also, I ended up being convinced into buying him a new riding lawnmower and a trailer that attaches onto a truck. And there was still more money, but I just don't know where where it went. Well, fast forward, and none of what he said he was going to do actually happened. My car needed a new engine, and I even paid him the money to get it fixed, and it took him 2 years to get it done. And in the process, I watched him make more financially irresponsible decisions. I mean, this man genuinely believes that I owe him money, and that's because he had to pay child support for me when I was younger, or because he had to care for me when I didn't have a job when I was a minor. He acts like he was there for my entire life, when I know for a fact that he wasn't. He makes 6 figures a year, and has a wife that also makes almost that, yet they can't afford to live and somehow had to fall back on me. Now I moved out at 20, and I have none of my inheritance, yet somehow I can afford to live, and I now grieve all the money that I could have had. So would I be in the wrong to cut him off completely now that I moved away? He has already called me 3 times about money, and I've still told him no, and he's still gotten so upset with me, and even got upset at the job that I have, and told me that I need to make more money. I'm honestly at such a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your dad is awful. Like, this guy basically drained your bank account. He took all that money you got from the inheritance, and literally just spent all of it, and it was on stuff that he could afford. Like, that money was meant for you, and it is so unfair that he basically stole it from you. So honestly, with all things considered, I wouldn't blame you in the slightest for cutting him out of your life, because based on what you've described, it really seems like he's going to be asking you for money pretty much for the rest of your life. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My in-laws are constantly telling me that I need to make up with my family and try to heal the wounds that my family has in the past. But after hearing this for so many weeks, I finally had enough, deciding right then and there that I was going to put them in their place and make sure they never said that ever again. Here's what happened. So I married my husband, who we will call Ryan, 7 months ago, and his family and I get along fine. But for 6 years, they had no idea my family background. And the reason is because they are so family-oriented and are so naive to the reality of unhappy and toxic families that they come across as preachy about being so close together. This is something Ryan warned me about and spoke to them about before, but they still comment on it regularly. I don't speak to my family. I have a dad who raised me and a half-brother I was raised alongside half of my life. I'm an affair baby, and that came between me and my half-brother always. My mother didn't stick around long enough for me to ever know her, and I never tried to track her down later. My dad also ignored how damaging it was to have my half-brother always throw in my face how much he and his mom wish I didn't exist. Dad would also try to make his ex-wife and me interact, and she got so angry, and I would hear her tell him that she'd rather me not be alive than interact with me. The last time I saw my half-brother was when I was 22, and he told me to my face he would never love me or consider me a part of his family, and he saw me as repulsive just like our dad. My dad heard this, and he still dismissed how much that would hurt. So I don't speak to my dad anymore by choice, and my half-brother and I don't really talk by his choice. Any extended family treat me like I had the affair because they're closer to dad's ex-wife than my dad, and I was just a casualty of all of that. Plus, they ignore my half-brother, and he made it clear that he didn't want me to be around. I don't think about it often, and very few people know. I didn't tell my in-laws for years because of their attitudes around family, and when I did, a few weeks before I married Ryan, the reaction at first was somewhat surprising because they said nothing judgmental. But ever since that point, they have talked about my half-brother a lot and even his mom, and for some reason, they feel like me reaching out to them would heal everything, and we'd skip into the sunset arm in arm. Ryan told them it wasn't going to happen and to just please drop it. So they got more subtle and less direct. But a week ago, they brought it up again, and they told me how much better my life would be if I put in the effort to heal those relationships because family is everything. Ryan then told them that not all biological families are equal, but they told him that they're essential for all of us though. I told them it wasn't true in my case, and my half-brother's mom isn't related to me in any way, and that my half-brother is repulsed by me, and he considers me filthy because I'm an affair baby. I told him that's not something I can fix from simply reaching out, and I told him this very attitude about family is why I never told them for so long. Now, Ryan had my back, but his family were extremely upset by my words. My mother-in-law's anger was the most clear, and she told me it's unfair to judge them for wanting families to be healthy, and apparently that's all they were trying to help with. So am I the jerk for putting them in their place in the way that I did? What should I do? No, you you are definitely not the jerk. These people are delusional. They don't understand for a second what it's like to have a toxic family, and they literally have no idea what they're talking about. Like, it's great for them that their family is so tight-knit, but that is not the case with all families. Some families are just downright toxic. Everybody sucks and everybody is mean and horrible to one another, with so much gossip and backstabbing comments, as well as many other awful things. So for these people to say over and over again, oh, you should just make up with them. Family is everything. That'll solve all of this. It's like, seriously, you guys need to shut up and back off. They don't know the intricacies of your family, and they absolutely overstep the line by continuing to bring this up over and over again. And by the way, they're only having a negative reaction because they got called out and they got put in their place over something that was none of their business. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and your in-laws absolutely should have minded their own business. Am I the jerk for saying no to my sister and her family when she asked me if her and her family can stay with my family after their house burned down in a house fire? Here's what happened. So my sister and her family lost their family home in a house fire 3 weeks ago. It happened in the middle of the night, and initially they stayed with our parents on night 1, but our parents have a 1-bedroom house and space was not optimal for that. So they asked if they could stay with me, my wife, and our kids, but we said no. And we said no for mostly one reason, but kind of two. For about 2.5 to 3 years, my sister has been so tough on my wife when it comes to the way that we feed our kids. And she focuses on my wife far more than me, but it does come back on me too. We don't keep sugar or junk food from our kids. We don't deprive them of that, but instead we simply keep things balanced. We make veggie pancakes and we make healthier pizzas. We allow snacks like chocolate, ice cream, or cake, and we offer our kids sauces, but not all of them are homemade, but some of them are. Well, my sister is so judgmental about all of it. She didn't let any of her kids have any junk food until they reach school, and they can only eat something like chocolate at birthday parties, and they limit the number of those that they can attend in close proximity, so they don't get 2 days of junk food in a week, or more than 3 days of junk food a month. My sister or her husband will also stay at parties, even ones the 10-year-old is invited to, just to make sure they go for the salad over pizza, especially if they've had chips or candies. My sister acts like our kids eating a chocolate treat or just a few chips is the end of the world. She was essentially horrified to find out that we gave our kids fries and tacos one night, and that on another night, we gave chicken bites with potato cakes and not plain chicken once the potato cakes were involved. Veggies were included both times, but the idea of 2 less clean foods absolutely horrifies her. My sister-in-law is a pediatric dietitian, and she loves how we feed our kids. She told my sister that once, and my sister was horrified by my sister-in-law's profession. This has all become such a problem that it has led my sister to disrespecting my wife. So we see her far less, and I don't like that. We used to be so close, but I won't allow her to walk all over my wife over a difference in how we see things. Oh, and she also doesn't like that our kids get bread with soup. So when my sister asked if they could stay with us, I said no. She told me that they really wanted to stay with family instead of some hotel or a strange rental, and I told her that they would all be happier there, especially when she would be so bothered by the food that my wife and I feed our kids. But I also wasn't going to let her stay and disrespect my wife in our home. Well, my sister has been furious with me ever since then, and she told me I took things way too far, but I told her that she's been going too far for almost 3 years now. So honestly, am I the jerk for not letting my sister stay in my house? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. No, not at all. I think that was the right move, because I guarantee you she would have done the exact same thing over again. It's so disrespectful to say all these horrible things about the original poster's wife, and then expect them to be like, oh yeah, come into my house for God knows how long. I can't wait to have you not only in my house, but also under your thumb again when it comes to how I feed my kids. That, in my opinion, would be absolutely obnoxious to deal with, and I definitely don't blame you for saying no. Am I the jerk for sending a price sheet to my family after they demanded that I make a cake for my half-sister's wedding, despite the fact that I wasn't invited? Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I am a full-time baker for a small business, and I'm also a college student. I moved back to my home state in September of 2023, mostly just to get away from my toxic family and to look for better opportunities in life. Also, to add why this is even an issue in the first place, my brother, who we will call Jay, as well as myself, are the black sheep of the family. And this is mostly due to the fact that we were born and mostly raised outside of a marriage. marriage. The teasing and neglect only grew worse after our mother married her husband and had our other 4 half-siblings. Now, here's the dilemma. My half-sister, who we will call JoJo, is getting married to a man in July. My mom and grandma asked that I make the wedding cake, which I would have happily agreed to if I was invited to the wedding in the first place. The thing is, they wanted me to make a cake fit for 200 people, get a hotel near them, work for 3 days, and get a flight there and back. I would have to pay for all of it, and they think it'd be a nice gift from my sister. Well, I just laughed and I sent them my price sheet, and they just flipped out. I was bombarded with text messages from them about how I'm being so truly vile, how I am toxic for expecting my family to pay for my cake when they could just go down to Walmart to get one. In fact, JoJo even messaged me on Discord a week after I had sent the price sheet and asked why I would charge her when I made my best friend a free wedding cake. Well, I simply told her to get lost, as not only was I invited to her wedding, but I was also the maid of honor, and in a way, it was me returning the favor for being a genuinely good friend and helping me out when I was going through a lot. Well, Jay and his wife said that I'm not wrong for it, and they would do the same thing, and my boyfriend is also on my side. However, a few people in my life are saying that I should have just said a simple no instead of sending the sheet, and that my response to my sister was really harsh. So I really need some outside perspective, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update to the situation. Here's what they had to say. Okay, to start things off, I found out the exact reason for my brother's family and I not getting invited. 3 months after my sister and her soon-to-be husband got engaged, my grandmother requested my sister not invite the sinners. And it was more along the lines of basically, if you don't invite your siblings, I'll give you a hefty portion of my will. So, my sister is catering to the needs of my awful grandmother over her own sisters. And by awful, I mean that my grandma is straight up racist. I also found out another reason out of many as to why my brother and I were the black sheep in the family. For starters, my mother is whiter than paper, and my brother and I's biological father is Native American. We were told he just left us because that's how the savages act, when in reality, our father passed away from a terminal respiratory illness. The hatred from them only grew further when my brother married a black woman and had my 3 nieces, with the 4th one on the way. I told JoJo how hurt I was that she was picking money over family, but I kind of expected it. She tried to offer me $50 to make the cake she wanted, but I just declined. So at least now I know where everybody stands in my family, because these people really are the absolute worst. Yeah, your extended family are super toxic, not only for expecting you to do this all for free, but also for the way they've treated you throughout your life. It's all completely unfair, and they just have no good excuse for treating you this way. Never mind the fact that the grandma is just straight up racist. Like, that is unacceptable, and I'm so sorry you dealt with that. But hopefully you can move forward from this and continue living a life away from your toxic family, because you do not deserve this treatment in the slightest. An entitled customer demands that the new staff must be interviewed by him, as he practically claims to be the most important person to ever come into that restaurant. And honestly, that was the most awkward experience of my life, and I'm glad that I never dealt with him ever again. Here's what happened. So this happened a few years ago when I began working as a hostess at a well-known diner-style chain restaurant. I had been on the job a few days when a middle-aged man and his grandson came in, requesting to be sat at their regular table. The server working recognized them and showed me where to seat them in her section. We were slow at the time, and after a few minutes when I passed by their table, the man stopped me and requested that I sit with them for a few moments. And honestly, when he said that, I was completely confused. He then explained that he was the self-proclaimed king of this restaurant and that he knows all the staff, and anyone new must properly introduce themselves and really get to know him. Now, I awkwardly sat on the corner of their booth for a minute as he grandly gestured to his grandson, who was too busy playing games on his phone to look up at me, with the air of introducing a real-life prince. So I just kind of looked at him and I said hi. He spent the next few minutes talking about himself as if he owned the restaurant, explaining that they were there every few days and that this was his family. While that's all very heartwarming, his level of ego and his hints that his approval was something I had to apparently earn to keep my job made me very uncomfortable, and I did not feel I should have to give any explanations about myself to this stranger. He continues by giving me the lowdown on his expectations, which essentially were that I must always seat them at this table without question, greet them like the royalty they are, and avoid seating louder parties near them at all cost. After I got up, the servers told me that he does this to all the new staff, and it's just better there to go along with it because this guy has become friends with the managers. And funnily enough, that was the only time I actually saw him come in during my shift. And I can honestly say it was one of the weirdest customer service encounters I've ever had in my life. Yeah, that guy has like some serious main character energy. He really sat down with a new person on the job and said, okay, let me give you the lowdown. We're special because I say so, and you better give us exactly what we want or else I'm gonna cause a scene. Like seriously, buddy, that is so annoying it's not even funny. Like if that happened to me, I would go up to the manager and tell them straight up that this was weird and I don't appreciate this. Because if they really are friends, then the manager can be like, okay, that was fun, but you can't do that anymore with our employees. Because this guy was completely full on his own self-importance. And that honestly is so cringy, it's not even funny. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my fair share of drinks when I went to a bachelorette with my friends in Vegas, despite the fact that I don't drink? Because right now they're demanding that I pay a lot of money towards the tab. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so we had a bachelorette at Vegas last weekend and hit up a steakhouse and drinks at the club. The shows we visited were all on our own cards, and so was the steakhouse, but my friend put her card down for buying drinks and appetizers at the club. Now, I don't drink, and I haven't drank since college, and all my friends absolutely knew this. I had a custom cocktail that was basically costing me no more than $25, and it was practically just sparkling water. We agreed beforehand to split the bill, but I took that to mean the food and not that I would be required to pay for the drinks. The other girls did order 2 champagne bottles along with cocktails. Then, when we got back home, I got a Venmo request for $470, which I was very shocked by. I called my friend to ask what the breakdown was, and they said that it was split. But I said that was quite a bit, as I remember we ordered 4 appetizers that were $30 to $40 each, so my share should not be that high. Well, she got annoyed and told me that we agreed to split the bill, and I said I did, but only for the appetizer. She said she didn't take photos of the bill and now has no idea what anyone ordered, so I should agree to pay my share. But I said I didn't drink, so the only thing that's my share is the cocktail that was practically sparkling water. She said everyone was pretty wasted, so it was hard to determine who drank what, and since I didn't keep track of it, I should just pay for it. Now, by my calculations, I owe about $60 to $70, but since I didn't keep the receipts, she is insisting that I pay the whole $470. Now, I'm very unhappy with the situation, and I told another friend about this, and she acknowledged that I owe way less than what I'm being told to pay, but said out of the girls, I clearly had the best job, and 2 of the friends were living with their parents and working nearing minimum wage, and that I should just pay and call it even. I'm feeling like I'm getting fleeced because my flights and hotels weren't even as expensive as this one night out. So honestly, would I be the jerk for refusing to pay this amount? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you would not be the jerk at all, and honestly, it really seems like they're trying to screw you over. It is so convenient that these people would be like, oh, nobody kept track of anything, so I guess this is just what you have to pay. Like if that was me, I would want to know exactly how much everybody else is paying, because that seems incredibly overpriced. So no, you would not be the jerk in the slightest, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. An entitled old jerk calls me lazy after I refuse to cut his grass for free, even though I've never met this guy before in my life. And I am seriously blown away by this guy's entitlement, as well as his expectation that I would work for free. Here's what happened. So I've worked in customer service for a while, and sure, I've had some old entitled jerks over the years, but I really try not to assume the worst because of someone's apparent age. I've had a lot of negative experiences with people of all ages. But today, however, I experienced something that I think is almost a perfect example of the negative stereotype of an older entitled person. I'm 27 years old and I bought my childhood house 4 years ago. It was very run down and I put a lot of effort into it. The subdivision that I live in was built in the mid-60s and an expansion was done in the mid-70s and early 80s. Most of the people here are retired and either bought the house when it was new, moved in 20 to 30 years ago, or inherited the house from a family member. I work full-time and remote, but I go for a walk in the mornings, afternoons, and during lunch. One walk around the entire subdivision results in a circle of about 1.8 miles, so I try to do 3 to 5 loops a day if possible. I've been exercising for 4 years in the same routine, often 5 to 6 days every week except for winter. And you know what? Usually no one bothers me, but sometimes I have scary encounters with dogs or with teenagers trying to mess with me. And usually it's just them insulting me while I have my headphones on, but when I take off my headphones and say, I heard that, they end up just leaving me alone. So anyways, today I was on my lunch break and I decided to go on a walk like I've done for about 4 years now. I throw my headphones on, and I get about 1.5 miles done in my circle. I then see a house that has a younger man on the porch, a heavyset woman cutting grass, and an older guy cutting grass on the same front lawn. Now, this lawn isn't very big, and there is a house right behind him, so the backyard couldn't possibly be that big. I have a relatively large yard in my area, and it takes me about 40 minutes to cut the grass and to weed it all myself. And mind you, that guy had somebody who could help him out. Well, he stops the mower as I walk by, and I can hear him talking, so I take my headset off. He says to me, "If you want to walk, why don't you just take this mower and cut the rest and take out 2 birds with 1 stone?" Now, at this point, I assume he's joking, so I just laugh, but then he starts mocking my laugh and mutters under his breath about how kids are lazy and starts cutting his grass again. Now, I'm getting close to 30. I work full-time, I have my own house and my own maintenance to do. I am still finishing up grad school and I have a social life. My time when I walk is my me time. It's there to relax and better my own life. I literally mind my own business, and he actively reached out to try and get free labor for me and was upset when I refused. His adult son, or whoever was clearly on the porch smoking, was clearly not helping or even being a helper in the slightest. Like, why does this guy seriously think that a stranger should be obligated to cut his grass for free? Do old people like this really feel this entitled that they can just boss younger people around for free labor? Do they not understand that walking for leisure with music or a podcast is fun and completely different than manual labor? Does he really not understand that an adult with life responsibilities doesn't want to cut his grass for free after jogging a mile in the sun? I'm honestly completely blown away, and I hope I never have to deal with this guy ever again. Yeah, that guy was completely out of line. It's ironic that he's like, wow, kids these days don't want to work, and yet he's the one who doesn't want to work and cut his own grass. Like, does he seriously not see how hypocritical and stupid he's being right now? He is literally complaining about the very thing that he doesn't want to do himself. Like, the fact that he tried to stop you, a random stranger, and get you to do his job that he clearly didn't want to do, in my opinion, is like the epitome of an old person who's super entitled. And the fact that he thought you would do it for free is all the proof that you need to blatantly show that this guy is super entitled. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen demands that me and my husband return a shopping cart that somehow ended up on the sidewalk in front of our neighbor's house. She even went as far as claiming that we must have been the people to do it and that it was our responsibility to return it and do the right thing. Here's what happened. So my husband and I live in a suburban neighborhood surrounded by entitled old people. And this is mostly because so few people our age actually own a home. And honestly, about 90% of them haven't been that bad, and they really just keep to themselves for the most part. It is, generally speaking, a quiet street. So anyways, randomly a grocery store shopping cart showed up on the sidewalk of our neighbor's house. It was very odd, but school's out, so maybe it was just a prank from a few streets over. We figured that whoever lifted it would either come back for it, or it would get picked up on trash day. While it was pretty strange, I'm still a firm believer in minding your own business. Well, my husband was walking the dogs on the opposite side of the road when out storms the entitled old Karen. We've never met this woman, but she parks on an adjacent street since it is a corner house and must enter that way too. So basically, we've never crossed paths. She then goes up to my husband and demands to know why there is a shopping cart there. Now, it's important to know that my husband is not a confrontational man, so he just kind of stared at her for a second before saying, "How should I know?" She then points over at our house and demands to know if he lives there. He says to her yes, and she says, "Well, the landlord wouldn't do this, so you had to take it back." Now, when the entitled Karen said that, my husband was stunned. This woman starts telling him that since her landlord clearly didn't park a shopping cart there, we must have been the people to do it, and that we needed to return it to the store because, according to her, it might get washed into the street when it rains and roll down the street and hit her car. She also said that the other tenant couldn't back his car out of the driveway and that it's now our responsibility to do the right thing, even though the shopping cart was literally 30 feet away from his driveway. Now, at this point, my husband told her that if she wants to play Nancy Drew, she's welcome to do that, but he has better things to do. And before he even walked off, some random truck pulled up, threw it in their truck bed, and then left without a word. And the look on her stupid red face was completely priceless. And after that, I will never understand some people's entitlement. Yeah, that's a really weird thing to assume out of somebody that you've literally never met. Like, the original poster and their husband have never met this lady once in their life. They've never had a side conversation or any kind of like interaction at all. So for her to walk up and be like, "Ooh, you gotta get rid of that shopping cart, my landlord wouldn't do it," that's not only a really bad first impression, but it's also super weird to place it on the shoulders of people who had nothing to do with it. Like seriously, the original poster didn't do anything and somehow they're getting roped into this. So yeah, I completely agree with the original poster because this lady's entitlement was completely out of line. An entitled old jerk loses his mind when I pay with Apple Pay, all because he didn't think that it was real. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was checking out at Target today and I paid with Apple Pay. And this is basically where I tap my phone on the card machine instead of using my card, which is the usual way that I pay. Well, behind me, there's this entitled old jerk who's watching all of this go down, and he just about loses his mind at the sight of me paying with my phone. He looks at me and says, Hey, what did you just do with your phone? No card or nothing. Did you even pay for your stuff?" He then actually steps forward and tells the cashier that I didn't put a credit card in the machine. I finally turn to him and I say, "It's Apple Wallet. My credit card is on my phone." The cashier then chimed in and explained a bit more, and then the entitled jerk, still in shock, said, "Well, how is that even real? How does your card reader know it's your phone and that you're the one using it? How does it know it should connect to your bank? My bank never told me about this." He then told the cashier that this obviously can't be legal and that you shouldn't be allowed to use your phone to pay for things. He was furious that I could apparently just wave my phone over anything and then just walk out free as if I didn't pay for anything. He went on to say, "That's not right. That's not real. I'm sick of cheats. I pay for stuff that I want. I mean, come on." And this guy just went on and on. At this point, I was handed my receipt by a very amused cashier and just started walking out. And this guy was still completely worked up, asking the cashier how many times a day people pull this stuff on him. And overall, I'm honestly still blown away that he doesn't know what Apple Pay is. Yeah, there are literally so many different ways you can pay for stuff, it's not even funny. So the fact that this guy really was getting worked up over someone paying for something with their phone, that's not only hilarious to me, but it's also like, well, yeah, of course people can do that. So for this guy really to try and narc out the original poster and try to get them in trouble for something they didn't do, that in my opinion is super obnoxious and completely uncalled for. My crazy entitled mother is constantly causing problems in my life and has treated me like garbage for the majority of my childhood as well as my adulthood. And now on the cusp of my son's birthday, she's demanding that she be allowed to see my son for his birthday and that I need to stop being crazy and let her back into my life. But after all the things that she put me through, I am now at such a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my mom is incredibly entitled, very awful, and very demanding. And when it comes to the last time that I dealt with her, she was mad at me for not reading her mind and inviting her over to my place after she ordered me to come get her leftovers. Now, I couldn't do it and she just snapped. The pent-up anger snapped in me and I stopped reaching out. And that was on April 30th. I had an appointment with my psychologist who told me to take a break from the situation and to concentrate on myself and see how I felt about it all. Well, Mother's Day was less than 2 weeks later on the 12th of May. I posted about a few of the past Mother's Days that I had with her and how demanding she was of me in those times. It felt good to rant for a little bit, and in the end, I didn't reach out to her and she didn't reach out to me. It was peaceful with no exceptions. But she, however, wasn't happy. She ranted at family that I didn't wish her on that day, and that made me a bad daughter. She complained about how selfish and ridiculous I was being, and how she did not understand what she did so wrong. Now, nobody told me anything about it. They were all gossiping amongst themselves, and that's just as good for me. I prefer that over dealing with flying monkeys. Now, on the 13th, my husband received a text message from my mom calling us cruel, with us deciding not to answer. And on the 15th in the afternoon, my mom texted to ask me how long I would punish her, and that she was sorry that I was angry. She wanted explanations and that she loved me. And that night at 11:25 p.m., she texted me that she would come to see me. And when she said that, it really stressed me out. She did not come to see me on the 16th, and I was anxious all day as I usually don't do well with confrontation, and that's because I have autism and I usually just shut down. My husband asked me to keep all cameras on during the day just in case, as he wanted video evidence if she did show up. When he came back from work, he basically said screw it and took our son and went to buy new locks for the house. He installed them that same night, and he actually took our son with him in case she did show up because I didn't want my son to be around my mother. On the 17th, my husband got a call from my brother. My brother wanted to know what was going on because he was receiving multiple calls daily about my mother's side of things and wanted to get my husband's side. My husband asked for a minute as he was at work. He called me up and asked me what he should say. I told him to tell my brother that it was none of his business business, but that our mom was well aware of what she did wrong as I told her, and that she had not apologized. So my husband called my brother back up and passed on the message. Now, I wasn't even contacted about any of this, and my anxiety wasn't much better as I really was spiraling. On the 18th of May, while my husband was trying to sleep off a migraine, my mom showed up out of the blue. She texted me that she was in front of the house, and that got me really angry. I had to wake my husband, who didn't look like he should be walking around, ask him to bring our toddler in his playpen to keep him away from windows, and confront my mom. My mother parked out of earshot of our Ring camera, and my husband is certain that she did this on purpose, and I kind of agree with him. She was, however, inside of our doorbell camera, our front yard camera, my neighbor's camera, and quite a few of my neighbors who were out and about. And that's all to say that people I know would have interfered if I had yelled. Now, when I came out there, she was acting all sad, as if she didn't know what she did. Well, I just confronted her. I told her that I couldn't read minds. I told her she was always expecting me to do that, but she denied it. I pulled out quite a few examples, and I told her she was always asking too much of me, but she just denied it. So I gave her some more examples. And then she asked if this made her a bad mom, and I told her yes. But it wasn't nearly as bad as when she would get physically aggressive with us when we were kids, even though she literally denies ever doing that, stating that it was just moments of craziness. But you know what? Even her getting physical with us was not on the highest part of my list of why she was a bad mom. Another reason is her having illegal substances in the house, or even the time that her girlfriend tried to sell me illegal substances. She said to me, "You know she was only joking," but I told her no. She knew what she was doing, and she knew that it wasn't a joke. But regardless, those jokes should not be tolerated for your kid. I then told her that she was a bad mom because she never protected us from her partners. She didn't protect us from our dad or her ex-girlfriend. She literally protected us from nobody. But even then, she just denied all of it. I then brought up that in July of last year, her ex literally said he was going to do awful things to me and one of my brothers. And despite it all, she still refused to open any kind of police report, claiming that she didn't have enough proof. And yet, a few weeks later, when the very same woman threatened to beat her up, she did end up going and filed a police report. I reminded her that she knew that woman was insane enough to try and hurt someone who also has a baby. Well, when I said that, she just cried harder. And I mean, she was seriously sobbing. I then told her that she never protected me and that I can't trust her to protect my son. Well, when I said that, she suddenly stopped crying. She said to me, "You know I would protect him like I always protected you." And she seemed so offended that I wouldn't trust her with my son. I honestly at that point wanted to fight her. I wanted to break her nose. I wanted her to feel a sliver of pain that she put me through. I ended up walking back into my house, and she just stayed in her car, yelling about me not walking off and to act like an adult. But I just refused to answer her. I didn't give her a parting comment, I didn't look back, and I just walked in and locked the door. I then went and I hugged my son and my husband. She stayed parked in the street a few minutes and then sped off angrily when she realized that I wasn't coming back out. And you know what? I cried a lot. It really was a lot to take in how little she saw of her being a bad mom. Later that night, she sent me a text message. She said to me, "Your memories are really biased. Except for the events at the store where you and your siblings would get spankings. I never hit you guys. I did my best. I never said I had been perfect, but I always tried to protect you the best that I could. I'm sorry for being your mom, but now I'll just leave you alone. Take good care of yourself." And you know what? I just didn't answer. I spoke to my psychologist, and he told me that I have two choices because she would never change. I had to accept that this is who my mom will always be. So I either accept her in my life as she is, or I kick her from my life entirely. But you know what? My decision had already been taken, and I decided to go completely no contact. But you know what? I know she's not done yet, and she will do crazy stuff to get my attention, so I decided not to block her. No contact orders are very difficult to get where I live, and you need a lot of evidence, so I decided not to block her. Now, my psychologist wasn't sure she wouldn't reach out anytime soon, and honestly, I wish he was right. On the 22nd, my mom sent me another message. She told me to contact her when I'm done being psychotic, and she sent me 9 messages in all, but I still didn't answer. Now, the reason I'm posting this is because it's my son's birthday in a week, and she texted me basically saying, "Can I see my baby for his birthday?" And I'm seriously now at such a loss, and I now don't know what to do. Wow, your mom sounds like an awful person, and there's no way I would ever let her around your son. Like seriously, think about it for a second. She clearly has never learned her lesson that she was an awful mom, and it seems like you put up with a lot of garbage throughout your entire childhood. Like that is so unfair for you, and I honestly don't blame you for trying to keep that from your son. Like she does not sound sound like a good influence in the slightest. So if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever stay in contact with her. She clearly just wants to do you harm and cause problems in your life, and you definitely do not deserve that in the slightest. My clingy younger sister hates the fact that I'm bringing my boyfriend to our family vacation, as she claims that him being there is going to ruin her experience altogether and is now demanding that he doesn't go. Here's what happened. So I'm a 22-year-old female, and my younger sister, who's 16, has been pretty attached to me my entire life and has struggled to branch out in her own personal social life, which has made this attachment way worse. She is extremely shy with other people, but towards our family, she has a very short temper and is prone to angry outbursts. I started dating my boyfriend about a year ago when we met in his senior year of college, and we've been long distance for the majority of our relationship. He is my first actual serious relationship, and I love him a lot, but my younger sister has been pretty much adverse to me being in a relationship the entire time. I attend college close to my hometown, so whenever I would visit and come home, my sister would make it so clear that she hates when I text him, and that she also hates when I FaceTime with him. Once my attention couldn't be focused on her every waking second, things hurtled downhill, and she's called me a bad sister for FaceTiming him at night and for texting him throughout the day, which has been really exhausting. And yet, she still says that she is happy for me and likes my boyfriend, and that she hates the time that I spend with him. And if I'm being completely honest, this has put a large strain on our relationship. Besides that, my parents and extended family have embraced my boyfriend with open arms, and my sister will still try and begrudgingly pretend to be pleasant with him because he really is a great guy. My friends all love him, and I'm good friends with his friends as well. So now I'm home for the summer, and my family usually goes to the Philippines in July since my mom is Filipino. My boyfriend expressed wanting to come meet my family there, and my family said yes, and my sister would just silently nod or leave the room, but I assumed that she was at least tolerant to the idea. But I was so incredibly incorrect. About 3 weeks ago, when my sister found out that my boyfriend bought a ticket, everything became a nightmare. I'm talking like a full-on tantrum. She was screaming, crying, stomping, slamming doors. She was throwing things around, including my things. She was yelling at my mom, pulling literally handfuls of hair out, and basically just being inconsolable. She has yelled at me countless times, saying that I ruined her life and her vacation, and that I'm supposed to be going for her and not for my boyfriend. She has called me every single name: a terrible sister, selfish, stupid, an idiot, and so much more. It has literally been on and off angry outbursts this entire month. When she finally takes some time to cool off, a notification from my boyfriend will pop up on my phone and it just starts all over again. And it's been like this for the entire month of May pretty much. She says that she's angry because it was supposed to be a family vacation, but when I ask her why she didn't tell me that earlier, she just tells me that I'm the stupidest person alive for assuming that this would be okay. She also said that she needs my help socializing with our family in the Philippines, and I won't be able to do that with my boyfriend around. But I didn't even know that helping her talk was a responsibility that I had. I've tried to reassure her countless times that I will spend time with her, and that she can have fun in the Philippines even with him there. But she insists that she will hate it, and that I've completely ruined her summer. When I try to apologize, her only response is to say, "Good, I want you to feel bad." She says the only solution is to tell him not to come, but then I said, well, I just won't be going either, which sends her back into a rampage. I've asked for advice from my friends with younger siblings, and even my friends who are younger siblings, and no one ever describes experiencing this. Has anyone dealt with this before? I've had dozens of conversations with her, but it all just goes nowhere. She's so angry that no conversation ever makes any progress, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, it seems like your sister's being completely unreasonable, and there is literally no point in continuing this conversation at all. Like, she's completely inconsolable. She's not accepting apologies, she's not seeing reason, and she literally admitted that she wants you to feel bad. And you know what? You don't deserve that in the slightest. You have every right to bring your boyfriend, and if this is how your sister's gonna act, then that is literally her problem and not yours. So if I was in your shoes, I would just start walking away and completely ignoring her, because you've tried to have conversations with her. You've tried to talk things out and reassure her that you're gonna spend time with her, but clearly that's not gonna be good enough. So if I was in your shoes, I would start locking my door and I would just walk away from her and avoid her completely, because the way she's acting is completely immature and so uncalled for. And in my opinion, you did not do anything wrong, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. My crazy entitled aunt kicks me out of her house as she claims that I'm a vindictive sociopath. But despite the fact that she stole money from me every single month, as well as when behind behind my back to learn my secrets from my therapist, she still claims even to this day that she was a saint for putting up with me for as long as she did. And I now feel very confused and very hurt. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Okay, I need to start off with a bit of background. I'm currently 26 years old and I'm a female. And this took place mostly when I was 21 to 22 years old. I should also say straight up that I am not a sociopath. I do have mental issues which I'll explain briefly in a moment, but none of those issues include me being a sociopath. Before this story, I had a very strong relationship with both my aunt and my uncle. I had been living with my parents, but they were moving to a new state, and I at the time didn't want to leave my life behind. So my aunt and my uncle offered me to move in, originally with no rent required or expectations of me. This seemed like a great idea. I could grow to be my own person and start healing from some really bad experiences I had prior. However, I really had absolutely no idea just how bad this would all turn out for me. The first few months were great. I got a job nearby at a grocery store, and I got myself a therapist for my mental issues. Now, for the short list, I developed a severe depression at a young age, and I had a history of attempting self-deletion, if you know what I mean. I have severe anxiety, which is now worse today. I have PTSD, and I also have dyslexia, ADHD, and autism. Now, despite all of these, I was starting to actually function as a normal member of society thanks to my therapist. For the first time in my life, I actually began to feel good about myself. I wasn't judged on my clothes, I wasn't judged on my eating habits, and I wasn't judged for doing any of my art projects or for just playing video games. I even got myself a tattoo of a roaring tiger turning into a dagger on my shoulder, and it still looks awesome even today. But then it happened. I apparently broke the water filter on the fridge, so like the responsible adult that I was trying to be, I offered to pay for it and I did exactly that. Then I bought myself a filter water bottle, that way I wouldn't break the fridge filter ever again. Now, I wouldn't know this until months later, but apparently this was taken as me being spiteful. Now, how is this spiteful, you may be asking? Well, honestly, your guess is as good as mine. Then a few weeks later, my little sister spent 3 days with me at my aunt's place, and I took care of her and everything was fine. But when I went to work on the last day, I came home to absolute chaos. So I'm not entirely sure what exactly happened, but the microwave, which was in perfect working condition before work, was broken in a strange way. The glass on the microwave door was shattered. I'm not entirely sure how to describe it, but it looked as if someone tried to break the microwave door off of the microwave, which is not something that my 14-year-old sister had the strength to do, but she was somehow still being blamed for it. So here I am trying to be responsible and just try to solve the issue by offering to pay for a new microwave, as I knew that it wasn't my sister, because someone had to fix this issue, and I felt that it was my responsibility to protect my sister. So I bought a new microwave, leading into this next issue. My aunt said that I spent too much money and offered to help me save. The original deal was that I would give her $400 a month and she would put it away for savings. And at the time, I was stupid and young, thinking that there's no way my family would screw me over, so I didn't get this in writing. Well, I never saw this savings as she always used my money. But hey, this may be half my monthly money, but at least I'm not having to buy my own food and hygiene products, right? Well, I was so wrong. 2 weeks later, I wasn't allowed to eat their food or expect them to buy my shampoo and body wash. And I thought to myself, okay, that's not really a big deal. I surely make enough, and the money I'm giving my aunt will be for moving out once I find a place. I did not make enough in between paying my therapist, my phone bill, my rent, and trying to buy my own food, so I was completely broke. Then my aunt would request me to bring home groceries with a promise that she would pay me back. But then, as you can probably guess, she would never do it. Now, here's an example. One day, my aunt asked that I bring her home an entire lemon pepper rotisserie chicken that was about $10. And for reference, I only made about $10 an hour. So I buy it, I bring it home, and I stand there waiting for my money as she starts eating it right there. I was then appalled when she said to me, "No, you can't have any. This is my food. Go away." Eventually, I ate maybe once every 3 days, and my therapy sessions weren't working as my therapist began claiming that I was just overdramatic when I talked about how useless I was beginning to feel. I eventually found out that my therapist and my aunt were close, and they would talk about me a lot. And my therapist would even tell my aunt everything I said in therapy. Then COVID started, and this is when it all got really bad. My aunt claimed that I was a sociopath. Now, you might be asking yourself, what evidence could she possibly have? And the only thing that she could come up with is that I didn't yawn when other people yawned. Suddenly, any small mistake that I made was a vindictive attack. For example, if I forgot to throw away some trash, she would say that I left it there out of spite. If I didn't rotate my laundry at the exact moment the cycle ends, she would claim that I was purposefully in the way so that she can't do her own laundry. She also had a habit of opening my mail and reading it, trying to push me off to random guys when they drag me to bars and casinos, and I now just don't like going to either because I'm not a big drinker and I hate gambling. And this is also not to forget what happened when I told her that I was bi. She said to me, "You are born either straight or you're born gay, and you were born straight. Being bisexual is a perversion. If you ever date a woman, I will disown you." So naturally, my girlfriends were kept secret. By October of 2020, my aunt claimed that she couldn't deal with me anymore and kicked me out. So I moved to my parents as I had no money because she never gave me any of that savings money that she said she was putting away. My aunt then disowned me after she kicked me out, and you know what? At first I was distraught, as I truly had no idea what I had done so wrong while I was living with her. Now, an unfortunate side effect of autism is that you truly don't understand why people react the way that they do, and most people don't care enough to take the extra time to talk to us. We are also unfortunately easy to manipulate and break apart. That year that I spent with my aunt was meant to build me up, but instead it did a lot of damage to me mentally. Oh, and I now just don't trust my therapist anymore. To this day, I still haven't talked to my aunt, and I now always make sure there's a contract made for anything involving money, whether it's family or not. To this day, my aunt still believes that I'm a vindictive sociopath, and that she was a saint for dealing with me for so long. So at this point, I really need to know if I was the jerk in this situation, because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk, and I'm so sorry that you dealt with your aunt for so long. For starters, you're definitely not a sociopath, and if anything, that's your aunt projecting that onto you. Like, the way she treated you was insane. She very clearly broke that microwave, by the way, and she also was stealing money from you every single month. Not to mention the fact that your therapist went behind your back. Like, that's insane behavior and also incredibly illegal. So for her to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm such a saint for dealing with you for so long," like, that's insane because it's definitely not the truth. You had to put up with so much garbage from that lady, it's not even funny. So no, you are not the jerk. Your aunt is incredibly manipulative, and I'm honestly so sorry that you dealt with that in the first place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for yelling at my sister after she basically tried to take over my wedding planning process by ignoring and completely tearing down everything that I was trying to do? Because right now she's very angry and is refusing to talk to me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old female, and to start things out, I'm planning my wedding for September of this year. It's the end of summer and also the month that I met my fiance. My sister, who we will call Kat, that's not her real name, was supposed to get married 5 years ago, but her partner passed away in a motorcycle accident. She was devastated and had a hard time. Since then, she's been very gloomy, and her relationships don't last long. She also goes to therapy off and on. When I told my family that I was getting married, Kat was visibly sad. So my mom asked me to involve her in the planning and to ask for her opinion to make her feel more part of it. However, she didn't agree with my choice of September, thinking it's a bad month for a wedding. She also didn't like the colors I picked or the dress I wanted. But regardless, I tried to listen to her sometimes. At one point, she said to me, "I can't believe you'll be the first daughter that my father's gonna walk down the aisle." And when she made that comment, I was completely gutted. Now, it's also important to know that I'm not having a religious ceremony. My fiance's best friend got a license to officiate our marriage, so it's not that serious. But with that in mind, I'm planning the wedding to reflect our personalities. My best friend suggested that the bridesmaids wear different colored dresses, but my sister didn't agree. She made some comments by saying, "It'll look like a gay pride parade," as well as saying, "You're turning your wedding into a gay wedding by listening to all of your friends' suggestions." And yes, my best friend is gay, but we have similar taste, so his opinions are highly valuable because they match mine. Last week, we were organizing the entrance of our bridesmaids and best men, and in our culture, we call them godfathers and godmothers, and they enter together. So I told her that my best friend would enter with his boyfriend. My sister then said that my wedding was going to be an absolute circus, and that as my older sister, she would make me see reason. She insisted that two men shouldn't enter the ceremony together because not all the guests would understand and appreciate it. Well, needless to say, her comments were very annoying and very hateful. She continued with her remarks and even called my fiance to get his opinion. At some point, I was fed up, and I yelled out by saying, "You're out of line because this is my wedding and not yours. You can have your own wedding and plan it as you want. I was very angry and my mom came from the garden to see what was happening. Well, Kat started crying and went to her room. It's been 5 days and she's giving me the silent treatment. She told my mom that she won't be attending my wedding, and it's honestly very annoying. She always tries to make me feel uncomfortable. For example, if she's in the kitchen and I enter, she just straight up leaves. Yesterday, my mom said I should apologize because my sister is fragile and this topic makes her suffer. However, I don't think that I'm much of a jerk, but my mom said that yelling at her was a jerk move, even if I was right. So honestly, am I the jerk for yelling at my sister? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. For starters, what your sister went through is honestly awful, and it sounds like she's still dealing with that grieving process and all that comes along with it. But seriously, it really is your own wedding. It seems like she's trying to curate this into what she wants out of the wedding instead of what you want, and that's really not fair for you in the slightest. Like, you're just trying to have the best wedding possible, and she's almost trying to take over and like make it her own. That is seriously obnoxious, and that's not fair for you in the slightest. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and while yes, your sister is clearly going through a lot, the way she acted towards you is completely unacceptable. And if I was in your shoes, I probably would have reacted the exact same way. Am I the jerk for leaving without explanation after my mother-in-law pretended not to hear me and then decided to break more boundaries that I had set with her in the past? Because right now, my husband is very upset with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 32-year-old female, and I have a 7-month-old daughter with my husband who's also 34. My country does ensure a long maternity leave for up to 2 years. However, I am self-employed, and I cannot afford to lose my clients, so I try to work while my daughter is sleeping and during the weekends. Lately, she's been teething, so I'm operating on little to no sleep. Now, with that bit of context, I need to say that I have an issue with my mother-in-law. She does what she wants despite people asking her not to, and then she says oops or just completely denies ever doing it. It was annoying before the baby, but after she was born, it became insufferable. My husband talked to her and set boundaries, so she stopped doing that when my husband is present, but she was still doing it when it's only me in the room. So we agreed she cannot visit when my husband is not at home, and my husband is not to leave me alone with her. Because of these boundaries, we did not see them for nearly 2 months. They lived 2 hours away, and we did not find a mutually good time, but they finally came over last Sunday. 20 minutes into the visit, my father-in-law wants to see a lawnmower that was broken down, so my husband goes into the backyard with him, leaving me, the baby, and my mother-in-law inside. She's drinking coffee and eating cake, and then she sits next to my daughter on her playmat and tries to feed her some of the cake. I immediately told her no, that she can't have that, but my mother-in-law pretends not to hear me and proceeds putting her spoon up to my daughter's closed mouth. I repeat that she needs to stop doing that and that she can't have cake yet, and definitely not from your spoon, but still she pretends not to hear me. I repeat it again and still I get nothing. And now there's cake on my baby's face and she's fussing. So I grab my daughter and I go to my husband and my father-in-law, subtly gesturing him to come back inside. After about 5 minutes, my mother-in-law decided to go outside too and was approaching me and the baby. I gestured to my husband again and he made an annoyed face. I had no energy to deal with any of this. So I stood up, went inside, grabbed the baby bag and the car keys, and I went to the car without saying a word. My mother-in-law asked me where I was going, but I just completely ignored her. I drove to my sister's, which is about 15 minutes away, and there were some missed phone calls from my husband, so I texted him where we were and that we'll be back in the evening. It was time for my daughter's nap anyways, and she fell asleep, so my sister told me to go to sleep as well. After she woke up and had her milk, my sister took her and told me to go back to sleep, and I slept for 3 hours in total, and my phone was on silent, so my husband's calls were ignored, and apparently his parents left disappointed and my mother-in-law cried. Well, my husband is now furious that I did this. We're still fighting about it, and he can't believe I was so rude and took the baby away when his parents came to see her after such a long time. He's angry I couldn't have waited a few minutes so that he could finish talking about the lawnmower, but I told him I'm too exhausted to deal with this garbage. He left me alone with my mother-in-law despite our agreement. So am I the jerk for leaving without explaining anything? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. I don't think you're the jerk, but also I can't believe that your husband is not more assertive with his mom. Like seriously, you straight up said, hey, don't do that with my kid. And she not only pretended not to hear you, but she also sat there and just did it anyways. And your mother-in-law absolutely knew what she was doing. She was doing all of that on purpose. Her alibi when you complained later to your husband was that, oh, I didn't hear her say anything. But that's a load of garbage that literally just does not stand in my opinion. And if she wants to act like some kind of stuck-up jerk by doing whatever she wants with with your daughter, then by all means, in my opinion, I would have left as well. Like, I'm not going to sit there and take that for a second, especially from somebody who's going to be so blatantly and openly disrespectful, because her behavior is absolutely disgusting, and there is no way you should have to put up with that in the slightest. My entitled mother stole my identity and is now begging me to open up a credit card in my name that the both of us can somehow use. And I'm honestly so done, and I just can't wait to finally move out. Here's what happened. So my mom has put several bills in my name when I was younger, and when I turned 18, I checked my credit and I found a debt of over $800. She had messed up my credit so badly, but the good thing is that I disputed it and it was removed in just a few weeks. Fast forward, and I'm now 22 years old, and a few months ago, my ID was laying around in my room, and she came in with her phone to show me a picture of my ID, to say to me, "See how easy it is for someone to just take a picture of your ID?" And when she did that, I lost my temper, and I got mad at her for taking a picture of my identification, knowing that she always accidentally posts pictures on Facebook because she literally doesn't know how to work a phone. Not to mention that she went to jail for fraud when I was 3 years old. So I told her to delete the picture of my ID, but she refused to do it. Later that day, she was talking about her boyfriend overseas in Africa and sent him a picture, but she sent him the wrong picture and told him to delete that picture that she sent immediately. And only then does she come to me telling me that she deleted my picture. And at this point, I feel like she accidentally sent a picture of my ID. I asked her and she said it wasn't my ID that she accidentally sent, but I just don't trust her. Fast forward, and I just got a job at a restaurant that's paying me about $18 an hour. She gets Social Security income monthly, and I was struggling with my part-time job, so we are down bad in poverty. Every day, I'm finding ways to work, and I even have to call in a Lyft just so I can get to work in the first place. Well, she wanted to sabotage the fact that I barely have money to get to work until my full check comes in, while she has a few dollars that she can give me, as I've done it for her a billion times. She told me to put a credit card in my name so we can have groceries and gas money, and if I don't do that, then clearly I just don't want to help myself. I'm honestly so sick of how ridiculous this is, and I will be moving out very soon, because my hate for this woman is growing literally every single day. That is insane behavior, and seriously, I would be on guard from here on out. Like, your mom not only went to jail for fraud when you were 3 years old, but she's actively trying to ruin your credit and basically use you for free money. Like, why on earth would you leave your identification lying around, or even still live with her after the age of 18? Like, that should have been an immediate sign of saying, "Oh yeah, I gotta get out of here as soon as possible." Because trust me, when given the chance, this lady absolutely will ruin your life. She's already tried to do it once before. So yes, I would be moving out very quickly. There is no way I would ever stick around in that kind of environment, because what you're describing sounds like an absolute nightmare. Am I the jerk for not inviting my sister to my wedding, all because of her behavior that she exhibited at my engagement party? Because right now, my sister is furious, and my parents are upset, saying that I should give her another chance. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm getting married in 2 months to my fiance, who we will call Alex. We got engaged last year and decided to have a small engagement party with close friends and family. It was supposed to be a joyful occasion, but my sister, who we will call Emily, caused quite a scene. Emily has always had a flair for drama, but I didn't expect her to make my engagement party all about herself. She showed up late wearing a white dress, which felt very inappropriate, and immediately started complaining about everything: the food, the decorations, and even the guest list. The breaking point was when she got into a heated argument with my best friend Sarah, and it was over something so trivial. She accused Sarah of trying to steal the spotlight and ended up causing a huge scene that left many guests feeling uncomfortable. My fiance and I had to step in to defuse the situation, and it completely ruined the mood of the evening. After the party, I had a long conversation with Emily about her behavior, and she apologized, but it felt insincere, and more like she was just saying it because she had to. Since then, I've been anxious about her attending the wedding and potentially causing more drama. After a lot of thought, I decided not to invite Emily to the wedding. I felt it was the best decision to ensure the day went smoothly and was about celebrating our love rather than dealing with unnecessary drama. When I informed Emily, she was furious and accused me of being unforgiving and petty. My parents are also upset, saying that I should have given her another chance and that I'm being too harsh. And right now, I'm starting to feel guilty. I don't want to cause a rift in my family, but I also want my wedding day to be peaceful and happy. So right now, I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for not inviting my sister to my wedding, because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. It seems like your sister was using your engagement party as like a rehearsal for the way she's gonna act at your wedding. For starters, she literally showed up in a white dress. And in my opinion, if you're looking for a red flag in this story, that's a really good place to start. It's pretty obvious, but you really should not wear white dresses at someone else's wedding. That is a really messed up thing to do, and it only steals the spotlight from the bride. So for her to sit there and be like, oh, you're trying to steal the spotlight from the bride over to your best friend, like not only was that just not true, but it also seems like Sarah basically gave away exactly what she's trying to do. She showed up trying to make some kind of big grandiose entrance, and then just went after the next person that she could see within eyesight. Like that is so annoying, and there's just no good excuse for that. So no, you are definitely not the jerk by not inviting her, because honestly, it really seems like you're saving yourself from a massive headache. My entitled mother freaks out and loses her mind when she finds out she needs to be vaccinated from COVID-19 if she wants to attend my wedding, as she claims I'm trying to politicize my wedding, when in fact I'm just trying to protect some very vulnerable people that would be attending. And now, as a result, she has completely cut contact with me and has ghosted my wedding entirely. Here's what happened. Okay, so this took place a couple of years ago. Long story short, after lots of ups and downs, I met the woman of my dreams and I fell head over heels. All the background that you really need on her family is that she was raised by her mother and her grandmother, the latter of which is in her 70s and suffers from severe CPOD and has only 33% lung functionality due to past health issues, including lung cancer as well. Fast forward through several years of dating and then moving in together, as well as buying our first home together, and we are now planning our wedding. We send out invites to all of the usual family members and friends, and I get a call from my mom, who lives in a different state, who is clearly quite upset. She's furious that on our invites we explicitly included that all attendees need to be vaccinated for COVID-19, and anyone showing anything even remotely close to symptoms needed to stay home, because the man walking my bride down the aisle and performing part of the ceremony would literally expire if he was ever so unlucky to contract the virus. And by the way, all of this was explicitly told to us by his doctor, who was very nervous about him being in a large group setting for these reasons, and actually pleaded with us to please include this part for his health. I explained the reason to her, but it was all to no avail, at which point she said she was just gonna have to see the photos afterwards on Facebook if you're seriously gonna politicize your own wedding. When she said this, I was dumbfounded, and I tried to explain that it had nothing to do with politics, and it was literally a life and death situation, to which she scoffed and screeched about how selfish we were being. And then she proceeded to rattle off all the various news talking points of the time about how the vaccine was evil, and so was anyone and everyone who endorsed it. And you know what? That was the last time I talked to her 3 months before the wedding in 2022, to which she never RSVP'd and never called again, and she and my stepdad ghosted the wedding entirely. And I'm honestly still blown away by the way that she acted. Yeah, that's one of those situations where it's like, okay, good riddance, I don't need you at my wedding in the slightest. Like, that is so obnoxious that you would be like, oh, you're politicizing your wedding. It's like, are you serious right now? People have passed away from COVID. How can someone be that selfish where they would try to be like, oh yeah, you're politicizing your wedding, when it's very clear that you're just trying to protect somebody who's a part of the wedding and plays a major role in the function of it. So if this was the straw that broke the camel's back, then honestly, good riddance, because someone like that clearly just wants to cause problems, and that's not someone I would ever want to deal with on a daily basis. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My little sister is the worst person on planet Earth. She constantly treats me like garbage and is always using me for everything under the sun. And after a lifetime of dealing with her garbage, I am now stuck at an impasse because I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, my sister is horrible to me and the rest of my family, and her personality has been remarkably consistent since birth. She's combative, she lies and gaslights, and will manipulate you. She spits in my face constantly, and I am so hurt and tired from a lifetime of this, because I don't think this behavior is normal. I'll provide some examples to try and illustrate what I mean. For starters, when she was a child, she was sitting on my dad's lap, and she was pinching him, and he told her repeatedly to stop. He told her if she didn't stop, he would drop her. Well, she pinched him again, and he dropped her right then and there. She then runs to mommy, crying about how dad dropped her to portray herself as a victim, even though she's the one that instigated it. And sure, I know she was young, but again, this is to illustrate the consistency in her behavior. When she was of the age to go to school, she would steal my clothes and she would never return them. In fact, she would destroy them, putting a hole in them or even tearing them up. And worst of all, she would hide the evidence and would always deny it, even though everybody knew the truth. She stole my mom's van pre-license and drove it into the garage, causing a lot of damage. And again, repeatedly denied it, even though we all knew it was her. She snuck out constantly constantly during high school. She was very into drinking and partying, including spending quality time with people, if you know what I mean. In fact, she did that in my car and let her friends do that in my car as well. She also got into a car accident after taking it for a drive with her friends when it was snowing. And we do share the car, but it was my car. She would say horrible, cruel things to me and drive me to tears many times over the years. She started countless avoidable blowout fights with my mom, all by refusing to be cooperative about easy things. For example, refusing to get up early when asked, or refusing to keep her room clean. About a year ago, I got into a car accident near her apartment, which resulted in my car getting totaled, and she declined to drive me home. And I just cried the entire Uber ride home. Now, I will say in her defense, her cat had a procedure at the vet earlier, and she didn't want to leave the cat, but I was still hurt, because if the roles were reversed, I definitely would have found a way to pick her up after a severe wreck. Also, she would ask me to check on her cat if she was away for a night, and this was a semi-regular thing that she would ask for. But you know what? I would go, even after a long 15-hour workday. When I asked her to check on my cat while I was on vacation, she just simply didn't want to. And in that moment, I just cried because I felt used. She asked for help constantly, but never helps anyone herself. She was recently rude to me during a very stressful period in my life due to work, and I went off on her in text. She showed my parents the text that I sent, but of course failed to tell them why I said those things, thus portraying her as a victim again. Also, as an adult, she is horrible with money. This month, she called me in a panic because she apparently spent all her money on a friend's wedding and could not afford any of her bills. I have been trying to give her financial advice for over a year, and she's just completely ignored me. She asked to borrow $400 and then failed to pay me back when she said that she would. I didn't say anything because I assumed she couldn't afford to pay me back yet, but later I learned that she was partying with her friends over the weekend at an event, and I'm absolutely sure she was spending money while she was there. When I confronted her, she told me she forgot about it, which is just a complete lie. I'm honestly just so tired. Hundreds of similar stories. She just makes me so miserable. I want to cut her off, but she apologizes, and the behavior continues and the pattern repeats. She's never the bad guy in her versions of the stories, and I would feel like a crazy person if my mom and dad didn't validate me. I don't even live in the same state as her anymore, and she still continues to negatively impact me. I'm just so confused by this behavior, and I just wish I had an explanation. I don't like conflict, and I'm not an instigator. I don't start fights with her, and I've always helped her out. I don't know why she is so unkind to me. I'm so envious of siblings who are also friends, because right now I am so distraught, and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. Having a sibling or some kind of like extended family member in general who treats you like garbage and literally just uses you whenever they need something is very disrespectful and a giant waste of your time. Like, you've gone to bat for her several times in her life. You've been there for her when she needs help or when she needs money, but she has never done the same for you pretty much ever. She always takes and she never gives back, and that is so unfair. And it really sucks. Like, you would expect them to at least come to bat for you at least once in your life, but I'm convinced that people who act like this are simply never capable of seeing how they can reciprocate and help people out in return. They only take from others and they never give back, and in my opinion, that's the mark of a really bad person. And I personally think that your sister definitely fits the bill. So yeah, I don't blame you for being upset, but also there's gotta be some kind of line in the sand where you finally say enough is enough. And sure, you don't want to cut her off completely because you do love her and it sounds like you want to try and have some kind of like relationship with her, but that absolutely doesn't mean that you should have to let her like walk all over you all the time. Like, in my opinion, some kind of healthy boundary really wouldn't be a bad idea, because the way she's treating you right now is completely inappropriate, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not caring if my adopted sister feels included after she decided to bail on the 5-year anniversary of my dad passing away? Because right now I'm incredibly hurt and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I have a biological brother who's 24 years old and an adopted sister who's 27. She was adopted when I was 1 year old and she was around 4. For most of my life, my sister received all the attention from our parents, and my brother and I were just kind of there. My parents would bend over backwards to make sure she felt like a part of the family, which is great, don't get me wrong, except they didn't bother to make my brother and I feel included. When she was 19 years old, we found her biological family, and they have a great relationship now. But I feel like this completely ruined our own family dynamic. Our dad died 5 years ago, and it seems like she just moved on from our dad to the other dad, and is also slowly moving on from our family to her biological family. Her biological mom's side also seemed to have a problem with us because we are white and my sister is black. So every time we try to be involved in activities, anyways. There are always jabs at us, and I think they encourage her to become distant from us. My mom still acts like my sister is the center of the world though. The last 2 Thanksgivings, we had to have family Thanksgiving dinner days before because my sister was going to have Thanksgiving with her biological family. And this was the same for the previous Christmas, where we exchanged gifts on the 20th, and my sister didn't even bring my nephew as he was at his biological grandma's place. My final straw has been a trip that we had planned in honor of my dad. On the 5-year anniversary of his passing, we were going to plant an orchard in a certain African country that my dad worked and lived in for years and we visited many times. Planting this was something my dad had planned before he passed away and had planned it all out perfectly, so we would only be executing his plan. We had agreed that the 5-year anniversary felt like the perfect time, except now my sister's biological sister will be getting married around the same time, so this means that my sister can only join us after the actual anniversary day. My mom says it's okay, we can plant trees a week or 2 later, and she actually said that when we plant the trees doesn't make much of a difference as we'll still be honoring him, and that my sister will only ever get to attend her sister's wedding once. She says it's a week's worth of work anyways, so it's not like we're going to be done on the actual day. Well, this made me mad, and I have told them that I will be breaking the ground on the actual anniversary day, with or without any of them. She said I was being inconsiderate, and that I should think about how this will make my sister feel like she doesn't matter to the family. My sister has been part of our family the same amount of time that I have been, only she can exclude herself. My brother keeps flip-flopping between coming with me to be there for the anniversary or waiting for my mom and sister some days later, and I honestly can't blame him. So am I the jerk for insisting that I'm not waiting for anybody? Because this trip is in 2 months, and I refuse to take any chances on missing this date. No, I personally don't think you're the jerk, and I don't blame you for stepping forward and saying, yeah, I'm gonna be honoring my dad whether you're there or not. Like, it really seems like your parents have played favorites with your adopted sister, and they've done everything they can almost to like the extreme, and it's basically ruined yours and everybody else's experience in the family, specifically you and your brother. And you know what, sure, I totally understand that they would want to make sure that your sister feels involved, but this has gone so far that they now neglect pretty much anybody else's needs. It's literally all about your sister whether you like it or not, and that is obnoxious in my opinion. So if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. I would fly to the African country that you're referring to, and I would break ground on this orchard. It clearly means a lot to you and your family, and it seems like you're the only one taking it seriously, because this is obviously something that you guys have been looking forward to for a long time. And if they're not going to take it seriously, then honestly, that is their loss and not yours. My parents and siblings are incredibly entitled, forcing me to do things around the house that I definitely should never need to do, while also practically making me the parent and the leader of my household, despite the fact that I'm trying to move out and move on with my life. And right now, I feel like I'm at a crossroads, as I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I'm the oldest out of my parents' kids, and I live with my brother who's 20 years old, my sister who's 16 years old, and my youngest brother who's 10 years old. Now, I've been essentially a caregiver to these kids for as long as I can remember, and when I can't be a caregiver still, it all comes down to the fact that according to them, I'm just being selfish. I have a rocky relationship with my parents, I don't talk to my stepdad, and I resent my mother since apparently it's my job to work around my own work schedule just to keep an eye on the youngest when he's not in school, because apparently my other siblings are just too busy to do that. I want to move on with my life, and I'm saving to leave, but it's taking longer than expected, because honestly, stuff just keeps coming up. For example, maybe I get sick, or I need to get my wisdom teeth removed. The list just goes on and on. My main problem is with my brother who's 20 years old, as he has never changed. As a kid, he would scream about, oh, I want this and I want that, and of course he would be given whatever he wants, and now that he's an adult, it's all the same thing. He can't keep any of his money, and expects me to just cough it up to him, or he's never home, so I'm left to look after his 2 cats. Oh, and he moved out for 6 months, and came back with 2 cats, but he doesn't even look after them. He leaves his keys at home every night, and expects that I'll wake him up and let him in at 2 in the morning every morning, while I have to work from 7 a.m. 6 days a week most of the time. And it seriously bothers me that even my parents don't say anything about his behavior. He expects us to run around him all the time. We're expected to put money on his card for public transportation. We're expected to feed and look after his cats, and he doesn't even clean up after himself. And of course, we gotta walk on eggshells around him, because even if we say one word wrong, it will just start this massive argument. And the last time, a really big and bad one happened. He will sometimes just waltz right into my job, asking me right then and there there for free food, which I don't exactly agree with. But then there's my mother. My mother hasn't lifted a finger around the house, and at this point, I just don't even know how long it's been. I do the cleaning and cooking for everyone as soon as I get home from work, and that's at like 5 p.m. Nobody lifts a finger despite my protest, and my parents do work, but only to really contribute towards their own wants and needs, and that mostly comes down to luxuries that they definitely don't need. I honestly don't know. I just feel like they're super entitled and they definitely take advantage of me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, that is a horrible situation to be in, because right now you are definitely the parent of that household. Your parents have basically taken a step back. They don't care about what happens to their siblings, and they've placed that responsibility on your shoulders. And it's seriously not fair. You don't deserve to have your entire life put on hold, all because your parents don't want to be parents in your life. Not to mention how your brother's been acting. Like seriously, this guy's an adult, and he's going to learn the hard way that he can't expect everybody else around him to basically pick up the slack. I mean, the guy is coming in at 2 in the morning and he's expecting you to let him in at the drop of a hat? That doesn't seem fair at all. He is 20 years old. He should be able to have his keys with him at the bare minimum. Like that really is not a big ask of anybody, and the fact that your parents aren't enforcing this in some kind of way is really obnoxious. It's also really weird to me that you're the only one responsible for your 10-year-old brother. Like based on what you've described, if you didn't step up and like help out around the house, as well as take care of your family and clean the house all together, not to mention after working 12 hours a day, then I'm pretty sure nothing would ever get done. So in that regards, I absolutely agree with the original poster. Their family is super entitled, and this is really just not fair, because I think you deserve to have your own life, and you definitely deserve to live around people who are going to take care of you and share the load. So in my opinion, I definitely think it's time to really start looking for somewhere else to live, because what you're going through right now is really unfair, and you do not deserve it in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that she is ruining my wedding, as she has practically tried to take over my wedding from the very start? Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I'm dealing with my mom's excessive gift giving of clothes and her intrusive involvement in my wedding planning. Throughout my entire life, she sent me numerous packages of clothing, always unsolicited by the way, and mostly it's stuff not of my style. I've tried multiple times to politely return the items that I don't like, but this hasn't stopped her from sending me more. My fiance recently pointed out how her style is very different from mine, often very childish. Despite returning 80% of the clothes that she sends, she continues to inundate me with so much more. Well, the situation escalated with my wedding dress. When we went shopping, she pushed for a matronly dress that I hated and dismissed all of the ones that I liked. I eventually chose a dress that everyone, including her, seemed to agree was the most flattering. However, the next day she insisted it was too low cut and even showed photos of me in it to her friends at my grandmother's funeral to get validation. She claimed that they all agreed with her and suggested that we go shopping again, which I refused. Despite my clear refusal, she booked another dress shopping appointment, which was a humiliating experience. She showed me zoomed in photos of my chest to the staff, who graciously assured her that it was not revealing. However, it didn't stop there. In the car leaving the second dress shop, she said that she was then taking me to shop for rehearsal dinner dresses. I said as politely as possible that I wouldn't be requiring her service for that, to which she matter-of-factly stated that she wanted to be involved in picking it out. After I flew back home, she began sending rehearsal dinner dress options to my house, none of which suited me and were all returned. Each dress was either not my style or the wrong size. Despite my polite returns and clear communication, she persisted in sending more. Recently, I planned a trip back to my parents' place to pick up my wedding dress, which I couldn't bring back earlier due to luggage constraints. A day before my flight, my mom texted me that she had booked an alteration appointment for my dress, claiming it needed to fit perfectly and be less revealing. She also mentioned that she had paid $50 for the appointment. After all our previous conflicts over the dress, I was in disbelief that she had not let it go. So I told her that the prior dress shopping experience had been extremely upsetting for me and that I couldn't handle doing that again. Her response was dismissive, stating that both dress shopping experiences had been traumatizing for her too. Now at this, I lost it, and I told her that her constantly bulldozing and manipulating me was ruining my wedding. I know my mom genuinely wants to be involved in my life and in my wedding, but her constant interference and insistence on her taste over mine are making what should be a joyful planning process into a nightmare. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, honestly, you are definitely not the jerk, but you are seriously overdue for some boundaries, man. Like, why did you agree to go on that second trip even in the first place? Like, if she had planned that, I would have been like, no thanks, I'm not going. shopping. But you instead went ahead and went for this second dress shopping experience, and I'm just scratching my head why you let that happen. Like, I know if I was in your shoes, I would say, okay, this is definitely a pattern, and she's going to act the same way that she's done before, and it's going to be really awkward and really terrible for me specifically. Like, that would have been my first indication that no, I can't really trust her in this regard, and that would then inform my decision of whether or not to show up for whatever she's planning. She's even gone behind her back and showed your picture to other family members allegedly, or even people that she knows and been like, oh wow, look at my kid's dress. Look how much she's exposing her body. Like, that alone would be the straw that broke my back, where I would say, okay, you're not helping with my wedding planning ever again. And also, I think you need to be way more firm with the way you talk to your mom, because your polite interjections and saying, hey, I really don't want to do this, is clearly just going in one ear and out the other. She doesn't care about what you want or anything like that, and it's literally just causing problems for you in your wedding planning process. So if I was in your shoes, I would stop letting my mom inside of the situation. I would set very clear boundaries and say, hey, this is how it is now. And if she's got a problem with that, then guess what? That's for her to deal with, not you. Because her behavior truly is very intrusive, and I do not blame you for getting upset or annoyed in the slightest. An old entitled jerk causes problems for me and my neighbor after he ran into my neighbor's car, claiming that my neighbor turned wrong and that it was his fault that this accident occurred. Things got so heated that this old entitled jerk even called the police to try and get us in trouble, but instead he got arrested for drinking and driving. And I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's behavior. Here's what happened. So, my apartment complex's entrance is at the junction of a fairly major intersection. My apartment also faces said intersection, and over the few years I've lived here has provided near endless entertainment due to the overwhelming amount of stupidity in the area. I'm serious. A couple of hours sitting on the porch with a beer in hand provides more enjoyment than any Real Housewives TV show. While crashes do occur, including a tanker truck that overturned fully loaded with tar because the driver was making a turn too fast so he didn't catch the light, I really enjoy the arguments. Of all the things I've witnessed at the intersection, this one that happened last month absolutely takes the cake. My neighbor from the other building was on his way home just like any other day. He turned on his blinker, slowed down to turn into the complex, and there was a car right on his tail as he slowed down. And the moment he turned in to drive, the car behind him bumped into him. Now, for clarity's sake, it was the most minor of minor accidents. So they both turn into the complex and park in front of my apartment. The entitled jerk who hit my neighbor gets out of his car screaming. This guy has a popular red hat on his head with an oxygen bottle in tow. His grievance was that my neighbor had made an illegal turn because he had never seen anyone use that entrance before. Now, my neighbor, not really wanting to deal with this guy, looked at his car, told the guy there really isn't any damage, as there really wasn't, and that he should try to be more careful next time. But it was like something had exploded. This entitled jerk comes unglued, screaming and saying awful things to my neighbor, saying that he has a weapon on him and he feels like his neighbor is trying to hurt him. And that's old person Florida speak for them basically saying that they're gonna try to take you out with zero consequences. So I put on my veteran's hat, and over the years I found that seeing that hat will typically soothe the most severe entitled old jerk bellyaches, and it will slightly bring them back to reality. I also put my own personal protection item on my side in a very visible fashion as a show of force, and I walk out just to check on my neighbor. I ask my neighbor, hey, is everything okay? And before he could respond, the entitled old jerk interjects, absolutely screaming about his grievances. Through the screaming, he says that he's fine. The car is fine, and the only thing that isn't fine is the screaming old entitled jerk. So I look at the guy and say the same thing that my neighbor did, that there is not much damage here, and I curtly told him that he needs to leave. Well, this old entitled jerk then gets in my face, like maybe 3 inches away, and says that we don't get to tell him what to do, and that he is going to call the police and have us arrested. Now, while he was in my face, I could smell alcohol on his breath. So I smiled and I told him, okay, go ahead and do what you've got to do. And you know what? Amazingly, he actually calls the police himself. He says that there was an accident that he was not at fault of, and that he was badly injured. A few minutes later, there was police, ambulance, and fire trucks at the scene of this major accident that clearly required such a response. The police take all the statements, including mine, which I mentioned that I smelled alcohol on his breath because he was 3 inches away from my face trying to intimidate me. The police take this information and do a field sobriety test, which he clearly failed and was arrested on the spot. And I honestly couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. This entitled old jerk causes minor damage while drinking. He refuses to accept responsibility because someone turned in a way that he had never seen before, and therefore, according to him, shouldn't be allowed to do that. He was also given 2 opportunities to leave, leave, he says more awful things and then literally calls the police on himself and gets arrested for causing an accident while under the influence. So I'm honestly very glad that this old entitled jerk got his social status upgraded to that of a felon. Wow, that guy was completely out of line. Like seriously, he's trying to make these unhinged remarks towards the neighbor and the original poster while also lying and being like, oh, I feel threatened, I might have to defend myself. And the original poster is 100% right. This old entitled jerk was clearly looking for problems. And thankfully, when he called the police on himself, he found all the problems he could ever want. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I in the wrong for having a grudge against my father and my mother, all because of the way they treated me growing up? Because right now, after looking back on everything, I'm seriously feeling so lost and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a difficult relationship with my father, and this is one that is the main source of my anxiety in my own house. I have a grudge against him for the things he's done in the past, but when I say I have grudges, people tell me I'm a spoiled daughter and I should value him more. So I came here to ask if I am indeed a spoiled daughter, or is it normal to have the feelings that I do? For starters, ever since I was a kid, I was really shy and a very sensitive girl. I had a lot of problems making friends and I was bullied a lot. My mother always knew something wrong was happening inside school, but everyone told her that she was crazy because I refused to tell the truth. And one of the persons who refused to believe my mother was my father, who supported the idea of me staying in the school even after I confessed that I was being bullied. Now, this problem of making friends basically followed me from my childhood into my teenage years. When I felt really low and I needed to talk, I only had my father to talk to, but his only advice would be that I was too sensitive and that friends don't exist, and I only go to school to study and not to make friends. It was cruel because I was an excellent student. I loved my teachers because I had the highest rates, and I always concentrated during class. I just wanted my father to hear me and give me advice and not try to sink me lower. To this day, I have problems opening up emotionally to him because when I express discomfort or something painful that he has done, he just dismisses it and tells me to become an adult. But part of being an adult is expressing if you've done something wrong to me. Ironically enough, at the age of 11, I started to be my father's therapist. Now, for context, my father has a really bad relationship with his in-laws, and he says that if it wasn't for them, there would never be any marital problems. So, with this premise, he decided to start telling me who was behind a mask of friendliness on my mother's side of the family and to take me as his ally on his personal crusade. So, I would spy on my mother's call with my grandma and say phrases prefabricated by my father when needed to. And I started hearing every day in the car for hours how the family was awful and that we were protecting my mother. At the moment, I was really immature, and I saw everything like a game of spies, saying phrases like, "Oh, are we winning, Dad?" Almost as if we're fighting against bad guys. And yes, I know it's super cringe. Now, from my point of view, yes, her family is absolute garbage, but all his hate against them is a reflection of his behavior, because he also manipulates and lies to my mother. Now, all of this was behind my mother's back, and my father told me that if I told her, it would be my fault if the family broke up. And now, with almost 20 years, I see that the only deep conversation I've ever had with my father were about his marital problems. In fact, at the age of 15, all these feelings of me playing against the bad guys transformed into hate towards my mother and her family. I felt like she was an idiot and that she didn't want to protect us from her toxic family. Also, I was expecting my father to divorce her at any time, and that's the topic he always was talking about when we were alone. And strangely, at home, he would act as if nothing actually happened. But I didn't say anything. I had the mentality that Dad is perfect and I'm just an idiot. And how could I ever begin to doubt him? My family would be destroyed. Well, one day I overheard a conversation between my grandma and my father, and my mother decided to tell me what it was completely. And that broke the halo of perfection with which I have always viewed my father to this day. When my mother and grandmother moved to Latin America, to my country, she suffered all numbers of atrocity by my father and his family. So much so that she had to move to the street while she was pregnant with me. A few months later, I was born while living in a shelter for women, and as my father promised to change, we returned to his home. Now, I have to say that yes, he did change, and everything was better between them, and they even had my little brother, but that doesn't make the revelation of this secret a before and after for my life. The man who seemed to me to be the perfect father and who rightly made me feel like I was an idiot in the end was, in his past, someone who was really an awful person. It was all just a complete lie. Now, I didn't know who I could trust, my father's family or my mother's family. I was in shock, and this was the first and only marital problem I knew from my mother. I kept acting as normal with my father, but I felt so sad and betrayed that one day I just exploded, and I told him in secret what I had heard, and he decided to tell me his version of everything, claiming that my mother was never mistreated or manipulated, and all of this was some awful plan from my grandma to control the family, that she decided to invent that my father didn't want us at home, and that's why we lived in the streets, and that this way my grandmother would keep us away from my father's influence, and that this way she could use us. Meanwhile, his family was perfect and never did anything wrong. So now I was really divided, because obviously this was really biased. After all this garbage on every family dispute, my mother in secret tells me to support her, while my father in secret tells me to support his truth. And I feel in the middle of a crossfire. Some years ago, I was battling a depression, but I didn't know how I had it, and I was always crying and so sad. At the end, I could go to a therapist, but my father always refused to get me help. When I ended up going, he would always say passive-aggressive things, stuff like, "You tell her all our secrets, I bet." And I'm glad I went there because I proved and discovered what I really wanted to be. I wanted to be a therapist when I grew up. At 17, I was about to enter university, and my father was obsessed with the idea of me becoming a doctor. I mean, it was his childhood dream after all. Now, I didn't do it because I knew he wanted me to do it just to make his own dreams come true, and because I wanted to study psychology. I mean, I was practically his own therapist already, so why not just make money out of it? However, he told me that under no circumstances was he going to ever let me study it. Now, I partly understood this because the only options to study this career were to go to another island in my archipelago so that I could go to a public university or pay for a private university here, and both options were very expensive. In addition, they told me that if I studied what they wanted so much, they would let me live independently in a flat that they had in the city. Now, I was delighted because they were very controlling, meaning that they had a GPS and they would get angry if I don't take their calls instantly, but I was a total idiot. So I accepted this deal because they never gave me the flat. According to my parents, it was because the arrangements were too expensive and they decided to rent it out to get the money back, which is understandable, but according to my father on my mother's back, it was because he didn't see me ready. He literally just told me to get lost. They've been saying for years, "Oh, we'll give you the flat," but I don't even want it anymore. I mean, seriously, what for? Even if I had it, I would just be blackmailed again. Not to mention that I'm really controlled by my father, as I said before, to the point that he doesn't even want me to get a car license. It's honestly all so messy, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, it really sounds like both your parents are just completely terrible people, and they've been taking advantage of you and manipulating you pretty much your entire life. Like both of them, more so your father, have been using you against each other pretty much their entire marriage, even if it's in more subtle ways from your mom or more obvious awful ways from your dad. So no, I don't think what your dad is saying about you is correct, and I don't think there's anything wrong with you being cautious towards your dad moving forward, because the way he treated you as well as the way your mom has treated you, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. An entitled customer tries to tell me that I don't know how to do my job, despite the fact that they have no idea what they're talking about, thus leaving me completely baffled at their stupidity. Here's what happened. So I currently work as a dispense tech at a pretty busy pharmacy, and I'm currently in my second year of bachelor's for pharmacy. I've been working at this pharmacy for over a year now, so it's safe to say that I know my way around medicines, especially since it's what I'm studying as well. Anyways, an elderly lady comes in and asks for someone that knows Mandarin so she can get some help deciphering her medications that she wants from her scripts, as this lady does not speak a wink of English. So I come over and I help her out. Now, it's important to note that I do come from a Chinese background and I can't speak Mandarin as it is my first language. However, I have stayed in Australia for long enough that I'm more fluent in English than I am in Mandarin. She hands me 5 scripts, and 3 of those I offered to get filled, as it seemed like the other 2 scripts are new, and she isn't aware the doctor prescribed her new medications. After a lot of back and forth, she decides out of the 2 new ones, she wants atorvastatin. So I bring the medication box over to her according to the script. She puts it through the Google Translate, and the word atorvastatin is written on the box, and it's translated into the same word as atorvastatin written on the script. But there's a slightly different pronunciation in Mandarin. At this point, I'm baffled. I don't know how to explain to her that if you match the letters on the box, it actually corresponds with the same letters as they appear on the script, because literally they are the same medication. The lady says to me, "You're wrong. What you brought me isn't what's written on the script. I say to her, this medication is the same thing. She says to me, you must be new here. You don't know what you're talking about because you're making mistakes. Can you bring me someone else to show me the correct medication? At this point, I pulled the pharmacist aside to confirm the medication right in front of her. But even then, she just doesn't believe me. So I just offered her to fill the scripts that she was sure of and then leave that one for now. And boy, do I wish the story ended here, but it definitely didn't. For context, in Australia, there are basically two healthcare cards, one of which is a basic healthcare card, kind of like Medicare, that is offered to all Australian citizens, and the other is a concession card that only certain people can apply for, which subsidizes a majority of your medication cost. So while I'm dispensing her script, I notice her waving her Medicare card around in front of me, demanding me to put this through the system so that she gets a discount. I explained to her that firstly, I already had her card details, and secondly, the card she's waving around isn't a concession card, and therefore you do not get discounted medications. And I kid you not, before I even get to finish the sentence, she cuts me off and says, you're wrong, this does get me discounts. And again, I'm just baffled at this point. And I even point out that what she's waving is a Medicare card and not a concession card. And I asked her if she has a concession card at all. And I can't even make this up. She said back to me, this is the only card I own. I don't know what you're asking me right now. Now, I'm genuinely fed up by this point. So if she really believes that the wrong card can offer her a discount, then so be it. A few minutes pass and she gets her medications. And lo and behold, the cashier staff rings. And this lady is asking why she doesn't have discounts on her medications. I let them know that she doesn't have a concession card, and just to be safe, to double check with her for the 5th time. Now, I wasn't there for it, but I like to assume that she just walks out after having to pay full price. Now, I normally don't let work affect my daily life, but honestly, this experience completely ruined my day. Oh man, there is nothing worse than dealing with a customer who seriously has no idea what they're talking about. They're sitting there being like, oh yeah, I know how to do your job. Meanwhile, they can't even identify the correct medication on the box or on the script. Like, that really is super obnoxious, and there's no good excuse for that. And this is also compounded by the fact that she was acting super obnoxious the entire time. Like, seriously, for her to be like, oh, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, that is just so rude. I'm pretty sure the person training to be a pharmacist probably has a good handle on how to do their job. So honestly, I think you handled this as well as you possibly could, because the way this lady was acting was completely out of line. An entitled sales rep at my job tries to force me to work while I'm on my vacation, claiming that he's gonna get me in trouble if I don't help him out right away, implying that he could cause me to lose my job. But thankfully, karma was on my side, as this guy got reprimanded and put in his place in a way that I always wish would happen. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Here's what happened. So this happened about 8 years ago, and at the time, I was working for a large company that did all manner of stuff, such as selling cleaning chemicals, pest elimination services, leasing machinery, and a lot of stuff like that. After starting in the customer service team, and boy are there some stories I could share from that time, I made it to the team that handles machine leases and logistics, dealing only with our field sales and service representatives. A lot of our field reps could be entitled jerks at times, and there was a bit of a company culture of praising them as heroes who went out and got us customers, but there was one in particular who we always dreaded dealing with. He would incorrectly fill out leases and then call and scream at us whenever we rejected them. He would demand anything he submitted be put to the front of our work queues, scream at us if we didn't get things done on his timeline, as well as have some of the worst entitled behavior. But unfortunately, since the assistant vice president over the area was a former field rep, he would just ignore our complaints instead of addressing them or even passing them on to the people in charge of the field reps. Fast forward, and 1 year, thanks to a friend, I lucked out and got a pass to San Diego Comic-Con. The day my vacation started, I was sitting in the airport waiting for my flight when my cell phone suddenly rings. I answer it, and it was the entitled rep I was referring to. Now, I was confused as to how I got this phone call because the phone was my personal phone, not a work one, and I had no idea how he got the number. And I barely said hello before he started in on me. He said to me, I just saw that you rejected a lease that I submitted, and I need you to fix that right now and process it. I promised the customer we would expedite the machine, and if we don't, I will lose this business. I say to him, no, dude, I'm not in the office. I'm on vacation, and this is my personal number. You need to call the office line and someone can help you there. But when I said that, this guy just literally wouldn't take it. He said to me, I don't have time for that BS, and I don't care that you're on vacation. This is your problem now, and you will fix it right now, or I will report you to the assistant vice president for not
not doing your job.
Well, I responded back by saying I am literally sitting in an airport and I'm going to be boarding a flight in less than 20 minutes. I am not going to the office. I am on vacation. You will not call this number ever again. You messing up a lease is not my problem. See you later. Goodbye. I then hung up and of course he called me right back. But rolling my eyes, I ignored the call and I blocked his number. A week later, I am back in the office and as I'm logging in for the day, my supervisor walks up with a grin on her face. Apparently, the entitled representative had called into the office after I blocked him and demanded to speak to my manager. He tried to spin her some BS to make me look bad, but my supervisor knew me well enough to know that he was full of it. With a few questions, she basically got him to admit on a recorded call that he had dug into our employee files to find my personal number and that he had used that to call me, demanding that I do unpaid work to fix his mistake. And apparently, even with the assistant vice president going to bat for the field reps, he couldn't actually defend this when it was brought up to HR and the higher-ups. And while this entitled rep wasn't fired, he was forced to give me a written apology for his behavior, and I'm told he was severely chewed out by his supervisors and was written up, putting him in danger of losing his job if he did anything like that again. And every time he called our department after that, he was always very polite and very respectful to us. And I became a bit of a hero for finally getting that guy off of our backs. Wow, I can't believe that guy didn't get fired. Like seriously, this guy dug through your personal information just to find out your personal information to call you directly. And apparently this is all over a mistake that he made in the first place. Like that's insane to me and there is no good excuse for that. And I know for a fact that if I was getting ready to go on vacation and this guy called me up barking orders at me and being like, oh, you better help me right now or else I'm gonna get you in trouble. Like I would not only be very confused about how he got my number, but also incredibly pissed off. Like I don't know about you, but vacation and personal time off at a job is a sacred time. Nobody interrupts that, nobody gets in the way of that, especially somebody from work who's like an entitled jerk all the time. Because here's the thing, if this person was nicer and had a better attitude towards the people at the main office, I'm positive that some kind of solution could have been brought about that would have solved all these problems right then and there. But it's because this guy's such a massive jerk and he's treated so many people so poorly over the years, that in my opinion would be a major reason why nobody would help him out, whether this was an emergency or not. So truly, I'm so glad that karma came back to bite this guy in the rear end, because his behavior was absolutely unacceptable. My parents are forcing me to leave my girlfriend solely because she has a medical condition that would cause her to possibly have cancer in the future. And now after giving me the ultimatum that if I don't leave her, they're gonna kick me out of the family, I'm left wondering what the right move is. Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My girlfriend and I, who are both 25, have been together for more than 6 years. We survived a long-distance relationship for the first 3 years and had an amazing relationship for the subsequent 3 years. She is my best friend, my closest confidant, and we cannot imagine our lives without each other. We rarely ever argue and our personality complements each other. And our friends too always said that we are a perfect couple. Essentially, she's the perfect one for me. Initially, my parents loved her as well. They always showered her with gifts and really supported us being together. In fact, my parents had been nagging us to get married soon. However, my girlfriend is the carrier of a gene mutation, which basically means she has a higher risk of getting breast cancer and ovarian cancer in the future. I am well aware of her condition, and I am ready to support her and walk with her as her future husband. We planned everything we needed to do, such as getting IVF done to prevent the gene from being passed down, and her getting her breast removed to prevent cancer from developing. Well, unfortunately, I decided to tell my parents about my girlfriend's gene mutation, hoping to get their understanding and support. However, they did not take it lightly. My mom threw a massive fit and demanded me to leave my girlfriend immediately. Essentially, they don't want my girlfriend to be imperfect, and they don't want me to potentially suffer from taking care of my girlfriend in the future, such as bringing her to hospital appointments and all this other stuff. They also said that the cost of IVF and her treatment can be very expensive. My girlfriend had been really heartbroken because of this, but she is still willing to put up with my parents if it means us getting married and being together. Today, my mom has placed an ultimatum on me: either leave my girlfriend or be disowned by them. I love my girlfriend too much, and I can't imagine breaking up with her. I also do feel it is way too crucial to leave my girlfriend just because of her genetic predisposition to cancer. So right now, I'm at a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first off, anytime anybody gives me an ultimatum, that for me is a giant red flag. Like, why would they put that kind of pressure pressure on you and basically be like, okay, you can either choose her or you're going to be disowned. Like, where do they have the right to decide what you can and cannot do with your girlfriend? Or who you can and cannot date? Last I checked, this is 2024. You could do whatever you want. So the fact that they're like, if you don't break up with them, we're going to kick you out of the family. Like, that is disgusting, and there is no good excuse for that. They're trying to control your life, and that is not fair. Because here's the thing. She could very easily not get cancer, and she could live a long and happy life just like anybody else. Like, it sounds like the two of you really love each other. So on that end, it's honestly crazy to me that your parents would be like, oh, you better break up with her or else it's over. And to me, this is a really good insight to how your parents actually are, because on the inside, they're judgmental and they really do want to control your life. So I know if I was in your shoes, there is no way I would ever break up with my girlfriend, especially over the threat of getting disowned by my toxic parents. Like, if they want to play that game, then let's play that game. You want to kick me out of the family because I love my girlfriend and I want to stand next to her through cancer possibly? Then fine, kick me out. Like, I would be more than willing to call their bluff, because that's exactly what I think it is. They're bluffing to see if you'll just get out of this relationship. That way they don't have to deal with it later on. So you know what? In my opinion, I would not listen to your parents at all, and I would listen to what you and your girlfriend want to do, because you guys are fully grown adults and you know exactly what you guys want. And if you want to be together with your girlfriend, regardless of whatever gene mutation might be going on in her body, then in my opinion, by all means, I think that you should go for it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend won't care for my cats while I'm traveling, despite the fact that I cared for his animals while he was gone. And now, after stressing over this situation for so long, I am now very upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My boyfriend and I have been together for 4 months, and I have 2 cats and 1 dog. 2 weeks ago, he asked me to watch his dog at his house while he was gone for 4 days. He preferred me to stay the night at his place so his dog wouldn't be alone. I got to bring my dog and they were able to play a bunch. I went back and forth between our houses, which is like 20 minutes apart, just so I could care for my cats and spend some time with them every day. And this is also while managing my work schedule. I work 8 hours a day, plus extra work on the weekends. I work physically demanding jobs outside of my home. It was a lot to manage, but I'm happy to do it because I love him and his dog. And in contrast, he works from home 3 days a week at a desk job. Well, it's now my turn to travel. I'll be gone for 6 days, and I knew it would be a lot for him to handle, but he agreed to check in on the cats. I asked a good friend to handle feeding and litter boxes and medications every day. That way, my boyfriend would only have to spend time with them and love on them. I said every other day for a couple of hours would be fine, but he's now walked this back, telling me he needs exact times to come and that he can only come in the evenings, which honestly is totally fine. He also then said that it doesn't make sense for him to come at all because he feels my friend will be there anyways. He's wondering now what the point is of him even coming over in the first place. Now, my friend is doing me a huge favor. She has a young child, and she is in her last week of school for the year as a teacher. She has limited free time, but even she is happy to stop by quickly to take care of their basic needs. All I want is for him to comfort them occasionally so they're not alone. And this is also on top of the fact that my older cat has some recent medical issues. Now, she is fine and she will be fine, but I'm hoping to monitor any symptoms. And this is really why I asked for his presence. And to be completely fair, he is watching my dog at his house. So honestly, am I overreacting here? I just put a lot of effort into caring for his dog, and it feels like he's not reciprocating in the way that I would have hoped. He tells me that I should let him know what I need, but when I do, he just tells me why it's pointless and not convenient for him. I have a hard time understanding others, and I want to make sure that I'm not going off a ledge, because right now I'm very hurt and I just don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, it is really unfair that he's not reciprocating this in some kind of way. Like, if I spend all that time taking care of his animals and loving them and giving them company and all this other good stuff you would expect, then why on earth can he not go over there and spend, I don't know, an hour with the cats? Or just like sit around and like play with them or something? Like, sure, it's not their basic needs of having food and water, but it would at least help for the 6 days that the original poster is gonna be gone. Like, you're not even asking him to do anything hard. He literally just has to show up and be there with the cats. Like, that's it. There's really no other legwork he has to do. And he's really gonna sit there and be like, oh, this is too much. Like, why should I? So no, I don't think you're overreacting at all, because those cats deserve some love and attention. And if he really cared about the situation at all, he would happily do it instead of giving you an attitude. Am I the jerk for choosing to refuse refuse service to a creepy customer, as he's come up to my bar every single time just to order water. And I'm now at my wit's end dealing with this weirdo that I now seriously don't know what to do. I'm a 25-year-old female and I work as a bartender in a massive building that can hold up to 1,500 people. Well, there's this one guy who's 26 years old that likes to come in and demand water from me. Typically, since the building is so big and making waters for everyone who asks for them would mean like 100 waters a day, I just hand them a cup and politely direct them to the soda machine. My place of work doesn't really care if I don't charge for a $5 soda, so I just tell them to go get whatever they want for the inconvenience of having to get it for yourself. So anyways, this guy has come in a few times and has been so rude and passive aggressive for me handing him a cup. The first time he came in and didn't order alcohol, and he asked for a water and then said, "What? You're not gonna fill it for me?" And he's done this about 4 times when he's come in and has had this attitude that he's entitled to me grabbing him his water and has been so weirdly argumentative about it. And it's in a way that almost feels like he's trying to flirt poorly. Now, normally I don't even mind getting people water as long as they're chilling at the bar because it makes sense for me that they're sitting down near me. It basically says that you want proper service and you might order something later on or something like that. It's also not abnormal for bars to have water stations themselves, so I don't understand why this is such a big deal for him. This last time he came in, he called me lazy and told me he wanted me to do my job and just grab him a water. So I grabbed it for him, very angry, uncomfortable, and frustrated. He had 2 friends with him, and in my frustration, I asked if they were 21 years old, and when they said no, I told them they wouldn't be able to sit at the bar, so just go ahead and get rid of them. I have a feeling that he's coming back because he has so many times now, and the next time he does, I'm just gonna tell him to get lost because his aggressiveness and his weirdness about it is really enough to make me uncomfortable. So I'm really curious if everyone else thinks I'm being unreasonable because I rarely ever refuse service. And with this guy, I think I've tried everything under the book and I'm still coming up empty-handed. What should I do? I honestly don't blame you for denying this guy service because the way he's acting is really creepy. It definitely seems like he's doing this on purpose and almost like he's trying to exact some kind of power over you. Like that's really the vibe I'm getting and that's really creepy in my opinion. So no, I don't blame you for refusing him service in the future because this guy is acting incredibly weird. Am I the jerk for accidentally getting my neighbor evicted after I reported them for throwing trash off the balcony into the woods? Because right now I feel really bad and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my partner and I have been in our current apartment for 4 years. We had a new upstairs neighbor move in about 1 year ago, and right away, I began noticing tons of cigarette butts and ash on my balcony. For the first few weeks or so, I would just sweep them up myself as I don't really like confrontation, but eventually it started getting worse. I would find lit cigarettes and cigarette butts, and in fact, one of them burned a hole in our chair cushion, which is a major fire hazard, but we would also find teeth flossers, food items, and other trash. Once, when they were out on their deck, my fiance shouted up at them, asking if they could please stop dumping their stuff down here. They later talked to us and said they accidentally dropped them, but we really didn't buy that because there were so many and the variety of stuff that was there. Well, fast forward a couple of months, and we began seeing large bags full of trash being thrown down into the woods below, oftentimes with trash falling out of the bags and landing onto our porch. Anyways, we saw this happening pretty often, at least once a week. We asked them again, please stop throwing trash, but they actually denied it, claiming that they never threw any trash. They're on the top floor, so unless someone is living on the roof, it's not them. It's also important to note that our downstairs neighbor also gets tons of garbage, cigarettes, and cereal on their balcony, and they are just as frustrated as we are. Anyways, the upstairs completely deny throwing the trash ever, but the evidence is so visible, if you look down off of our balcony, you would find bags and trash and all this other stuff. Plus, our downstairs neighbor and us have seen it being thrown with our own eyes. The downstairs neighbors got really mad and decided to go up and full on yell at them. Now, I don't condone this, but I was really hoping that they would finally stop. Well, when they did get yelled at, they had this big dramatic reaction. They said to the neighbor, "Okay, I'm sorry, I had no idea, it'll never happen again." But then, cue to the next day, where we see trash being thrown off again, with some landing on our balcony. I finally sent a complaint to our apartment manager because it was very frustrating, and I was tired of interacting with them. And that finally leads us to today. My partner and I get back from a date, and they're outside packing things up. They said to us, "Just so you know, I've been given a 30-day notice to vacate. I told you you I didn't throw anything. And when they said that, I'm really shocked. I didn't want them to get kicked out. More of a fine or stern talking to, just so they would finally stop. Before that, we had someone awful above us that the management literally wouldn't do anything about. So I'm really dumbfounded that they would kick someone out over this. So am I the jerk for accidentally getting my neighbors evicted? Because I never meant for something like this to happen, and right now I feel really bad. No, you are definitely not the jerk, and I would not feel bad for these idiots in the slightest. They literally reaped exactly what they sowed. They were throwing trash off the balcony, you tried to get them to stop, and when that didn't work, you had to go to management. And now they're trying to spin the narrative and be like, wow, we have a 30-day notice. We never threw anything. We tried to tell you. But seriously, you know the truth. They're just trying to gaslight you. You know for a fact, and you saw with your own eyes, that they threw trash off the balcony. And all that trash is also landing on your property. Like you have physical evidence to say, yes, they were throwing stuff around. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Because in my opinion, those neighbors got exactly what they deserved. My entitled ex cheats on me and ruins our marriage, as well as refuses to pay any child support towards me or the kids. So I decide to get some revenge by forcing him to give me a portion of his retirement account. And honestly, with all things considered, my ex absolutely deserves this. Here's what happened. So when our first child was born, my ex forced me to quit my job. And when our second child was 2 years old, I found out about his affair. By then, he was extremely verbally, emotionally, and sometimes physically awful. And when he tried that with our firstborn, I put him out. And that was in 2012. I couldn't afford daycare and I had no family support. He refused to give me any money to take care of the kids, saying to me that the courts haven't ordered him to give me a dime. He lied to the bank and had my accounts frozen, and even freaked out on me when I filed for default in the divorce. The judge finally ordered him to pay child and spousal support 6 months after I kicked him out, forcing him to pay $2,562 a month. Well, he refused to pay it until the garnishment kicked in, and by then he was $6,000 behind in support. So I used that to get permission to move away. I remarried a year after the divorce, and I checked the court documents, and there was a little box that said spousal support stopped upon remarriage if the box was checked, but it wasn't checked, so I figured I was good. Instead of filing for his retirement, I just took that year of spousal support and then I left it alone. In 2017, he filed for sole custody of the kids out of nowhere, and that was when he found out I had remarried and he had paid spousal support to me during the first year of my marriage. I told him I took that money instead of filing for my share of his retirement. I said that if he let me keep that money, I wouldn't file to split his 401k. Well, he demanded that I repay the spousal support, and the judge ordered me to repay it, but increased the child support and deducted the repayment from that. So it ended up that I got an extra $20 a month, and he repaid himself. He then dropped his bid for custody in exchange for 2 extra weeks in the summer. Well, I pursued the retirement account split, and he refused to cooperate and dragged it out for 4 years. It was so bad that they sanctioned him, and he had to pay me $600 a month for a year, in addition to the child support. And in addition, they charged him with contempt. In January of 2021, he proposed to his girlfriend, and in May of 2021, I finally got the disbursement from his 401k. I won't say how much it was, but it was about 4 times the amount of the spousal support overpayment. I had no idea it would be that much. I had thought it would be around $12,000, which is why I thought keeping that year of spousal support and not filing for his retirement account was a fair trade. Had he not tried to take the kids away from me, I never would have filed to split the account. So you know what? If you're gonna play stupid games, you're gonna win stupid prizes. His fiance emailed me recently and told me it is my fault that he won't marry her because I cleaned out his retirement account. She said I shouldn't have stolen his money, but I told her that I gave him the option to let me keep that year of spousal support or take it back and I could file for his retirement. So in reality, he's the one that chose this. I told her that if he really wanted to marry her and protect his assets, they could get a prenup so he wouldn't have to worry about it. But she said that she shouldn't have to sign a prenup because apparently I robbed him. Now, I never asked to be financially dependent on him. He clearly indicated that he wanted a court order to take care of his kids, so I got him one. I tried to be fair and take the lesser amount by taking the spousal support and by not filing for his retirement, but he literally wouldn't let me do that. So in summary, my ex refused to pay me until support orders dropped, refused to pay until they revoked his license, and actually tried to get me in trouble for accepting spousal support overpayment, and in the end, it cost him a lot of money out of his 401k. Yeah, the ex in this story is a complete complete idiot. If they had just listened to the original poster, he could have lived his entire life without having to split up his retirement. Like, for starters, this guy started off on a bad foot after he cheated on the original poster and then tried to skate around helping pay for the kids and make sure they're taken care of. Like, that is so unfair, and it shows how much of a scumbag this guy really is. I mean, it really seems like this guy went out of his way to try and ruin this person's life. But also the fact that he tried to be like, oh yeah, I want sole custody of my kids. Like, this guy absolutely had this coming to him. Because the way he's treated the original poster, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for inviting my mom and her husband to my graduation, as well as not telling them that I changed my name? Because after they found out, they were furious with me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old female, and I moved out of my mom's house and into my grandparents' house 5 months ago, which was 2 days after I turned 18. I also changed my last name after the move, which is not something I mentioned to either my mom or her husband until now. The reason for changing my last name is that they changed it first. I had my dad's last name, but when my mom remarried her husband when I was 7, they changed mine to go along with theirs. But I never wanted to have his last name, and I even told them that. But mom told me that it was so important that we all have the same last name, mostly so her husband would feel like we truly became a family, but also so he could claim me more easily and pick me up from school or dance classes, or just take me someplace and not be questioned on who he was to me. I will always see it as his trying to claim me. He said it so many times that I was his daughter and I was his kid, and just a lot of stuff of that nature. It got so annoying, and I never even wanted to be his kid. I never claimed him back, and I have always rejected the idea that he's any kind of parent to me. I hate how territorial he is. I hate how he would lose his temper with people who'd know me as dad's kid, or even mention that I was Jay's daughter and claim me as his own instead. I told him and my mom how much I hated it, but he told me he was feeding me and raising me and loving me, and that entitled him to be recognized as my dad. My dad passed away when I was 5 years old, so that's why I wanted to still be his kid. He didn't abandon me or walk out. He loved me, and he passed away because of a stupid allergic reaction that left me without the most important guy in my life. My mom always defended her husband and told me I should show more appreciation for him because he could leave us, and would I really want that in the first place? Well, I said yes a few times, and she just flipped out so hard. Sometimes I think my mom wanted to send me off to some boarding school just so I couldn't ruin her marriage. And I know they looked into it, but they would never give me to my paternal family because they still wanted to claim me as theirs. Well, all of this led to an awful relationship and me moving out as soon as I could, which then led to me changing my last name back and never telling them. But I decided they could see me graduate and find out then. But the thing is, they got an email from the school with my full name on it for the tickets to my graduation, and they were furious that I invited them but didn't tell them. They said I was trying to make a fool out of them. My mom's husband told me that I would have left them clueless as I publicly disowned them. I told them I was doing that for years and he never accepted it. And that's when he told me I was so thoughtless and petty. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it sounds like your mom and her husband really did not listen to you growing up. Like, you really did make it very clear to these people that you did not want to change your name. You wanted to keep that connection to your dad, and you completely rejected your mom's husband and his insistence on claiming you as his own. Like, that's super obnoxious, and I seriously don't blame you for being so upset. So you know what? If they don't want to show up to graduation, then fine, don't show up. But in my opinion, you have every right to change your name if that's what you want to do. My entitled mom borrowed $11,000 from me and now is refusing to pay me back as she feels she's entitled to it all because she raised me. And I'm honestly at such a loss, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I used to live with my mom and dad who adopted me at birth. My dad always said I would inherit our family home after they both passed away, and unfortunately, my father passed away unexpectedly in 2021, and we had been struggling to keep up with the bills ever since then. I got into a car accident in late 2022 and ended up getting a settlement check for it in June of 2023. I loaned my mom a total of $11,000 for repairs to the house and bills to catch up on. I told her if we ended up selling the house and moving out together, she could keep a majority of the money since we would be living together. But I never agreed to let her keep it if we moved out separately, since I would need the income. Since that conversation, I moved in with my boyfriend and she was staying at the house. She ended up having a stroke in October and sold the house I was supposed to inherit and moved in with her new fiance. She's given me $4,000 back since then. Plus, her fiance paid for a couple of car maintenance and repairs, so I've also deducted that from the money that she's owed me. However, she refuses to pay back the last $5,900 as she feels like I owe her this since she raised me. Now, I desperately need that money since I've gone back to school, and I need to quit my job to focus on my studies and my health. I only have 4 months until I'm done with my classes, and I can get my new job in my career. She was the one that chose to adopt me. I didn't ask for it. I don't owe her anything for raising me. I mean, that's her job as a mother. She also always tells me about how she has money, and she's gonna use it if she wants to buy a new car, and how she went to Cancun for vacation, and then she went gambling in Vegas. I honestly don't know what to do. How do I ask for the rest of the money? How do I leave on good terms with her if that's even possible? What should I do? Wow, I can't imagine having that much money loaned out only for someone to be like, I'm gonna keep it because I raised you. This is payment for me raising you all those years. Like, lady, what are you talking about? This was a loan. This means you have to pay me back. Like, if she's really that unwilling to pay back that money, then if I was in your shoes, I might have to look for like representation of some kind. That's a lot of money to go missing and not get back, all because she thinks she's entitled to it. Now, I don't know how well that's gonna go, because according to the original poster, they don't have any sort of paper trail. All of their communication was literally verbal, and that is like such a bad idea. Like, seriously, you mean to tell me there's nothing written down that says, yes, I'm gonna give you back this money? Like, that amount of money is way too much for some kind of verbal confirmation between the two of you. So hopefully this can all work out for you, because your mom has put you in an awful situation, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Tonight at my restaurant job, we had to call the cops on some customers after they wanted to fight me and my coworkers out in the parking lot, all because they were so dissatisfied with our customer service. Here's what happened. Okay, so we had to call the cops again at my restaurant, and this is the second or third time in the last 2 months. And this is because my table not only walked out, but also said some disturbing remarks and came back banging on the doors and windows to come back inside. So for starters, we close at 10 o'clock p.m. and an 8-top came in at 9:30 p.m. We're a corporate company, so they seat until 10 o'clock p.m. And sadly, there is no last call. First thing that happened was they never got one of their appetizers. It was simply never made, so I just had it taken off the bill and gave them the same appetizer to go for free to make amends. The next thing that happened was one of the guys at the table wanted a combo, but we didn't have one of the items, which I didn't know about until I went to ring it in. I completely forgot to tell him to get a replacement from him since I had a full section and was also trying to clean in between taking tables. So I didn't remember until I was already taking the food out. So I apologized to him and offered replacements, but he wasn't having it. Instead, he wanted a manager. Well, my manager came out and I don't know what happened, but they ended up fussing at her for a little bit, and then she got really upset over that. She took off the guy's meals, even though he did not get charged the combo price. He just got charged the meal that he ate. Once I brought the bill, they asked for the manager again, and she came back to talk to them, and they ended up calling her an awful name, claiming that she was discriminating against them since she didn't give them a bigger discount, and that's when she just lost it in the kitchen. She had a full-on crying meltdown and was just screaming. The table overheard her yelling in the back, so they just started to get up and leave before paying and started cursing me and my coworkers out, calling us awful names, saying that we could meet them outside if we had a problem with the things they were saying. Now, obviously, we didn't do anything, and about a minute later, they came back banging on our doors and windows because they forgot their takeout food in the restaurant. And it was past closing, so legally, we weren't even allowed to let them back in even if we wanted to. Customers that were trying to leave were afraid to leave, all because of how they were acting. So we ended up calling the cops. They sped off once they realized we were calling the cops, of course, and they also said they were calling corporate. But good luck trying to call them when you walked out on the bill and the police have your information, since you gave it to us when we put you on the wait list. It was honestly such a messy Sunday overall, and I seriously hope I don't deal with people like that ever again. Wow, these people were seriously entitled. They not only had a really bad attitude the entire time, but then they had the audacity to be like, oh, meet me outside if you don't like the way I'm talking to you. It's like, dude, are you asking me to call the cops? Because that's exactly what I'm gonna do. No one in their right mind is gonna walk out and be like, yeah, I want to deal with this. Like, that's how everybody goes to jail and everybody gets hurt. So overall, I'm so sorry you dealt with that. That really is one of the worst situations situations to be in, and hopefully that never happens to you ever again. Would I be the jerk if I planned to take away my invitation that I gave to my mother to go on vacation with my family? Because once again, she is possibly backing out on this trip, and it has seriously offended me, and it's left me unsure of what to do. Here's what happened. So I spent $3,000 on a vacation at a resort that is just about 3 hours away. I rented a place large enough to accommodate my mom and my younger brother who lives with her. My brother was looking forward to the trip several weeks ago, and just like a light switch, their attitudes have shifted, and we are 1 week away from leaving. Now, I have 3 older teenagers and a husband who is also going. I called my mom yesterday afternoon, and the excuses just started pouring in. She said to me, "I haven't found anyone to take care of my cat. Do you think my daughter will be able to take some friends? Has she talked to her cousin about going?" And I'm just thinking, well, no, why would she? She had me on speakerphone, and my brother then said, "I'll stay back because I need to work on my RV and I can keep the cat." My mom giggled and said, "He doesn't really want to go." So, with a crushed heart, simply because clearly the message I got was that my family and I aren't enough for them, I told her that I need to go and that I would talk to her later. She then texted that she would still be going, and my brothers would stay back to take care of his cat. I responded by saying, "Don't feel pressure to go. I have spent a lot of time and money on this vacation, and I don't appreciate being treated like it's an option at this point." She then said, "You know I'm planning to go or I wouldn't have reserved a golf cart." They did call several times, but I just ignored them. I am used to her rejection and always choosing others and things ahead of me. I don't know why I would expect less from her. She visits the area where my daughter goes to college and never makes an effort to see me. She comes to visit me maybe once a year, and I'm like, what, 40 minutes away? My husband thinks that I should tell her to come or not come depending on what she wants to do. However, I no longer want her on this vacation. Her words cause damage and I need space for healing. I love my mom, but the rejection has happened my whole life, and I'm seriously ready for some change. What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you would be the jerk at all. You've spent $3,000 on this vacation. You literally have gone out of your way to try and bring your mom and your younger brother along with you, and it sounds like she's not taking it seriously or even wants to go. Like, I know if I spent that much money on a vacation, I would not want to deal with anybody sitting there and being like, "Oh, I guess I'll go," or even just be wishy-washy in general about the entire thing. But regardless of what you do, I just would not allow this lady to take away from your time on vacation. Like, seriously, this is something you wanted to go to, and you have every right to go on that vacation, whether your mother wants to be there or not. A group of entitled jerks decide to cut in line at a concert venue, despite the fact that the line they had cut in front of had been formed and standing there for well over an hour. So I decided to speak up and put them in their place, demanding that they move to the back of the line. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I were waiting outside a concert venue. It was a general admission show to a venue that had a few seats in an elevated area, and then the rest was standing room only. The elevated seats offer an amazing view, but you have to be among the first people admitted to get one. So naturally, we showed up early so we could get a seat in that area. Now, there was a couple in front of us that allowed another couple to join them in line after we had all been waiting for a long time. But I think to myself, okay, not a big deal, no need to get excited. Then another few people show up and jump right in with that group, which really is not cool. But then even more people show up and cut right in. They all seem to know each other, and they just started jumping in line like it was nothing. By this point, about 15 to 20 people had casually jumped in line ahead of us. It was a staggering display of entitlement. All of these people just casually jumped right into a line that had been formed for over an hour like it was no big deal. I try not to let things like that bother me, but my cranky old man power was activated, and I decided to speak up. I told them that we had waited for a long time, and I didn't appreciate their actions or their casual attitude about cutting in line. The original couple tries to tell me that I need to relax, that we're all just one big happy family and all of this garbage, but I wasn't having that nonsense. I told them all their pals needed to get in the back of the line. Well, the couple says I can just move ahead of all of them if I was going to be a jerk about it, and you know what? I was definitely going to be a jerk about it. So my wife and I gladly moved ahead of all of them. And of course, the rest of the people behind us think that this is a great solution. So at least 20 other people join us ahead of the line cutters. They then griped and called us uncool, but guess what? You're right. I haven't been cool since sometime in the 80s. There was a time when I wouldn't have said anything and just let that happen, but I guess the old uncool me is losing his filter. But at the end of the day, I got a good seat with a good view, so I definitely think that it all worked out in the end. Wow, I don't care who you are, if you cut in line like that, that, especially at a venue for like a concert or any other like special event, and there were a lot of people who had been waiting there for over an hour. That is such an awful thing to do, and there's like no good excuse for that. Like seriously, just get in the back of the line like everybody else. I mean, why else would everybody be there waiting for a good seat if anyone could just step up and take any spot that they want at any time? That completely destroys the system, and like nobody can get anything done. So you know what? Good for you for calling these people out. The fact that they thought this would be okay in the first place speaks volumes to how awful these people are, and I'm so glad that you put those people in their place. My entitled uncle calls me lazy and entitled for taking naps during my lunch break, even going as far as saying he's going to report me to my job because according to him, I'm manipulating the system by not eating my lunch during my lunch break. Here's what happened. Okay, so at a family gathering, we are all making small talk about family, kids, work, or other hobbies, and right at that moment, my entitled uncle, who's only related to me by marriage, overhears me telling my cousin that I love how my work has a covered parking structure so I can jump into my car and take a nap during my hour lunch break and not be sweating up a storm when I go back in. Well, my uncle asked me when do I eat my food, but I nonchalantly responded that I usually eat at my desk when I'm working, or I just snack throughout the day if my calendar is packed with meetings. Well, he immediately responded that I was lazy for sleeping at work during my lunch break because I shouldn't be eating on company time and I should only be focused on work during those hours. He also said, "Oh, you're so entitled for thinking you can manipulate the system like that." He then spouted off how he should call my company to let them know about my actions, and then maybe I'll take my job more serious. So I told him that it's none of his business how I use my lunch break and that no one at my work would care about it because I get all my work done and I get it done well. He then went off on some scripted tirade about how people don't want to work anymore ever since they got their socialist stimulus check. I quickly interrupted with how I made too much to even get a check and then pointed out that he got one as well. So I decided to circle back and ask him, "So please tell me, what did you use your check for?" Well, he immediately doubled down that this generation wouldn't know hard work if it hit us in the face. Now at that point, my cousin said they were going to go out for a smoke and asked me if I wanted to join them. I did just that, but then I decided to leave. And I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's horrible attitude. Man, I can't stand people who act like this, especially from someone who very obviously is not working. It's so funny to me that this guy literally was like, "Oh yeah, how's your socialist stimulus check?" But in reality, this guy got one as well. Like seriously, this is some insane behavior. And the fact that he also tried to like get you in trouble, all because you said, "Yeah, I take a nap during my lunch break." Like that is so petty and so weird. Why would you come after a family member like that? This is literally just small talk at a family gathering. Who in their right mind would turn on a family member and be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get you in trouble with management"? Like seriously, get a life. Because there was no reason for that guy to make that comment. Am I overreacting for being upset at my friends for doing almost nothing when it comes to my birthday? Because right now I am very hurt, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I know it sounds annoying from the title itself, but please just hear me out. So I'm friends with 6 people, and they're all amazing people too. The thing is, I'm a little bit upset that they didn't do anything for my birthday. Yes, they wished me a happy birthday, at least through messages, and yeah, that was really nice, but that's it. I'd even be really grateful for an appreciation message or a simple card. I'm not asking for extravagant gifts or to spend any money on me, but even then, I didn't get anything else. But for the rest of my friends, everybody's got at least something or some celebration by the other friends. For example, my one friend we will call Sarah got a surprise cake in the middle of our exams. She thought everyone forgot because we're busy with exams, but they still surprised her with a cake. My other friend we will call Katie also got a birthday cake where everybody came. I made handmade cards and gifts for each of their birthdays, and I'm not asking, "Oh, I should also get you something back because I made something for you." No, it's not like that. I made it because I like to, and maybe giving gifts is just not their thing. But then they got a gift later on for Katie too. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm fine with being later as well, but it's now been a month. I probably won't get anything either. I actually pushed this all behind me, but then another friend's birthday is coming up, and they're planning an entire surprise birthday party. They're saying stuff like, "Oh my god, it's her 18th birthday. It should be really special." But it was my 18th birthday as well. Why didn't I get anything? I just think that I'm a floater friend or something like that, or maybe they just don't care enough about me as I care about them, or maybe I'm just overreacting too much. I would love to hear some other thoughts as well, because man, it's been eating me up inside. Like they're really nice people and friends, friends. And sure, birthdays aren't a big deal, but it is kind of to me. If you can do something for everybody, why did nothing come my way? So am I overreacting in this situation? What should I do? Okay, first of all, I want to say that what you're going through is so unfair. Like, all your other friends in your friend group got all these special things for their birthday, but when yours came around, literally nobody did anything. That really is hurtful, and I'm so sorry that happened to you. And worst of all, it was your 18th birthday, just like this other friend who they're trying to plan a surprise for. That really does just completely suck, and I don't blame you for being upset. Like, how can they not see how valuable of a friend you are, or even how much work you've put in to be a good friend for them? You've made custom gifts, you've helped out with other birthday parties. Why on earth could they not do something for you instead of just sending a text message, which, by the way, is the bare minimum that anyone could expect? And I think you have a good head on your shoulders about all of this. You're not expecting some extravagant gift, or even this massive party, but I don't know, maybe something a little bit more than a "hey, happy birthday" over text messaging. That really sucks, especially when you consider how big they've celebrated with other friends. So no, I don't think you're overreacting at all, and if anything, this might be a good insight into how they feel about you. I'm sure this is much more nuanced than that, but if my really close friends treated me like this, I would feel absolutely devastated, and I do not think that you deserve that in the slightest. My entitled landlords are facing the consequences of their actions after they refused to fix a leak that was happening on their property. And after all the trouble they've caused me, I'm honestly so glad I got some revenge on these entitled people. Here's what happened. Okay, so about 2 years ago, I moved into a house with my roommates. The landlords, who are a married couple, were really dumb, to say the least, and not just in a stereotypical way. They couldn't get our names right, they didn't care about issues in the house, and would often say things really out of pocket that just made us say, "What are you talking about?" I didn't really mind because they never came over, but about 6 months in, we had a ceiling leak. I have worked on many houses before as a plumber, and it looked like the leak was coming from the roof. They came over, they cut a hole, decided it was too much of a hassle, and then just disregarded all of my concerns about it. They would come over to change the shower head, change out the floor, and added a water guard, but we all knew what the real problem was. Well, my lease is up next month, and the house was recently deemed uninhabitable by a plumber due to their negligence. I didn't pay them rent last month, and instead, I set up an escrow account where the money was held. I had a check made with the stipulation that I would only release the funds if the leak was fixed. And this is where their entitled mentality came into play. They have shown up every couple of days, walked right into the house, and just started screaming at me about paying rent. I have been very obviously filming them each time that they do, and they just keep putting their foot in their mouth. I have them on tape admitting that they have known about the leak for 10 years, and that apparently I'm the only one who has made a stink about it. I also have them admitting to disturbing asbestos when they cut the ceiling out, admitting to being aware of the black mold in the house, and then saying that they'll patch it up before the next people rent it out. They have said they're going to sue me, they're going to evict me, they've slandered my name to my employer, and much more. And I have all of these on video. The last time they came over, I kid you not, the wife started stomping around my house like a little kid, yelling out that she wants her money right now. But I just sat on the couch videotaping her and quietly informed them that I have all of their confessions on camera. The house is now deemed unrentable, and they know if they take me to court, I have all the evidence that I need. I know that I'm not allowed to withhold my rent in my state, but there's overwhelming evidence of neglect of our lease on their part. Instead of fixing the leak a while ago, they now have to redo the entire upstairs, all with new floors too, by the way, due to an inspector telling them that it wasn't load-bearing. They decided to sell the house at a major loss without receiving any future rentals. And as of last week, I've never seen these people ever again, and I honestly hope I never do in the future. Wow, these are awful landlords. They knew about this leak for years, and they just kicked the can down the road until you came along and said, "Wait a second, I am not living in this situation." And you know what? I don't blame you in the slightest. There is no reason for you to live in that kind of situation and deal with landlords who act like this. So good for you for getting some revenge, because these entitled jerks absolutely deserved it. My entitled friends have been speaking badly about me behind my back, as they have mocked my pictures that I post on Instagram, constantly making fun of my appearance and the way that I look. But after I uncover the truth by going through one of their phones, they try to turn this all around on me by saying that I invaded their privacy. And now, as a result, I am at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I have two friends that we will call Gabby and Shelly, and no, those are not their real names. names. All of us are 23, and we were roommates in college and stayed in the same city after graduation. While the three of us are close, I've always known that Gabby and Shelly are the closest, and they really have a sweet friendship. Shelly is getting married, and Gabby is the maid of honor, and I'm one of the bridesmaids. Over the weekend, I went with Shelly so she could look at a wedding dress. Gabby was supposed to come with us, but got called into work at the last minute. I helped Shelly pick out some dresses, then she went with a consultant to try them on. Shelly then asked that I take pictures and videos on her phone to send to her mom and Gabby, and as I was getting the camera ready, a text message from Gabby came through on the phone. Now, I did not mean to click on it, and I was going to instantly click back out, all the way up until I saw one of my Instagram pictures in their private chat from earlier that morning. Both of them were making fun of me for the face I was making and my outfit of choice, and it didn't seem like this was in good nature. Now, I will admit, curiosity got the best of me, so I searched my name in the chat, and when I did that, I found multiple pictures that I, my boyfriend, or my mom have posted of myself, absolutely ripping them to shreds, ranging from selfies to pose shots to even a few baby pictures. They'd also make fun of me in general in terms of the way that I talked, the way I wore my hair, and the way that I ate. This went back, as far as I could tell, at least a year. Well, when I saw that, my heart absolutely broke. It felt so juvenile in high school. While we all joke around, I would never do this to them, nor have they ever tried to instigate these types of conversations with me about the other one-on-one. When all was said and done, I was in tears. As someone who was bullied all through middle and high school, it just brought me back to a horrible place. I put the phone in Shelly's purse, and I brought it to another employee, telling her to tell Shelly that I had to go. I then drove home and I had a long cry. Shelly texted me by the time I made it home, asking me where I went. I said I was going home and we could talk later. When she did call a few hours later, she was understandably confused and hurt that I left. I then told her what I found, and I explained that I only looked further because of the initial text that I accidentally saw. Well, when I said that, she went off on me for looking through her private text messages and said those were none of my business. She also told me that I shouldn't have left the store without saying anything. I said I didn't want to make a scene, but also I knew I couldn't fake being happy for her. Shelly then told me that all the text messages were all in good fun, and clearly she loves me because I'm going to be her bridesmaid. She added that I'm only hurt because I chose to read all those text messages, and later on, Gabby called to tell me that I invaded Shelly's privacy and I hurt her by walking out. My boyfriend and my mom think that I did the right thing by walking out, but obviously they are a little biased. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for looking through those text messages and then leaving? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk in this scenario. Your friends are absolute garbage. Here's the thing about Shelly and Gabby. It's only in good fun now that you found out about it. Like before you found out about it, it was funny at your expense. But now they're trying to make it seem like, oh, come on, we were laughing with you, not at you. And that is absolute garbage. You know the context of those text messages. You know that they were making fun of you behind your back, and they were absolutely trying to tear you down limb from limb. Like, why else would they send all these photos exclusively to the two of them, while also making horrible comments about these photos? Like, that is so toxic, it's not even funny. And also, just look at the way she reacted when you called her out. When you said, hey, I saw what you said about me and I don't appreciate that. She suddenly got super defensive and was like, oh my god, you invaded my privacy. But she's completely missing the point of the entire conversation. The both of them have been speaking poorly about you behind their back, and they've treated you like garbage while you thought you were good friends with these people. And that's probably the worst part about it that would drive me insane. Like, if someone's gonna be my friend, they better show up for me when it counts, because you had every intention of being a bridesmaid at her wedding. But now you're finding out that maybe that friendship wasn't nearly as deep as you thought, which is so devastating, and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that. So no, not only are you not the jerk for walking out, but I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would even want to stay in that wedding, because Gabby and Shelly sound absolutely toxic, and you can definitely find better friends than that in the future. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen on Facebook claims that she's gonna sue me after I share a photograph that she doesn't like in our Facebook group. And right now, I am absolutely blown away by this Karen's entitlement. Here's what happened. So I never thought I would ever share a story of my own about an entitled person, but apparently the fates have decreed otherwise because last week, I too was blessed to be in the presence of an entitled Karen. Now, I met this Karen about a year ago. Some friends and I were setting up a public exhibition, and I had volunteered to be one of the tour guides to explain said exhibition to potential museum visitors and guide them through the photographs, antiques, and other things that made up our display. One day, a friend texted me if I was free that Friday to do a meet and greet with a group of people who were coming in to see the exhibit, and I decided to say yes. And wouldn't you guess it, among that group was the entitled Karen. Now, I did not at the time have any inkling of how bad this would get, but trust me, it goes south rather quickly. Fast forward about 6 months, and in the short time that I've known her, a few things have become painfully obvious about this Karen. She absolutely loves to talk about her family, her relatives, who she's related to, how she's related to them, as well as how much they earn and how much they're worth, as well as everything about her friends and how much money they make. The words millionaire and billionaire pop up so often, you would think that she was reading the Forbes list, and she would literally talk about them for ages. What should be a 5-minute phone call would turn into a 30-minute lecture about how well connected she is. For the most part, she was generally civil. She invited me out to meals with her friends, she asked me to tell them about myself, and as always, again, for some reason, with heavy emphasis on family history and connections and occupations and jobs and all that other stuff. By now, I had just accepted that she was just weird and eccentric, but whatever. It takes all types, as they say, and I assumed that was honestly it. Now, something to know about the two of us is that we're both members of a local club. This club is a cultural club dedicated to the promotion and preservation of our shared ethnic heritage. There's the main club, and then there's the smaller youth group within the main club. Now, said youth group is run by a friend, and we have a Facebook group, and in this group we share videos, recipes, photos of food, as well as photos of family, friends, and events that we went to, or maybe we talk about stuff that we've hosted or participated in, and occasionally we share historical stuff related to our culture, and that includes photographs, antiques, family heirlooms, and stuff like that. Now, the reason for all of this background information is literally because of what happened about a week ago inside this group. I had written a Facebook post about similar such organizations as our club, and a bit about their history and how they were formed. For visual interest, I had added a photograph into the post, which was the first ever formation of a club like this, which was well over 100 years ago. I posted it in one group on Facebook, and then shared it into the youth group's Facebook group as well, and then I just left it. Well, in a matter of a couple of hours, the entitled Karen was attacking me on Facebook. She was demanding to know which members of this photograph are my ancestors, as well as which ones are my relatives or which ones are my family. I told her that none of them are, and that it's just a historical photo in the public domain. It was relevant to what I was writing, and it was relevant to the group. I shared it, and honestly, that was the end of the story. But no, that's not good enough. She immediately demanded to know by what right I shared this photograph, whether I'd ask anybody's permission, and why I hadn't contacted the descendants of the people in the photograph, which by the way was well over 100 years ago. I told her I had no idea how to do that, even if I did have their names. Well, when I said that, she got furious and demanded that I contact these people, even though I don't know how, and ask their permission, or she would and get me sued. She was also furious that I dared to share the photo in another group, which wasn't about our club or culture or our heritage, and that I have no right to do so. And I'm thinking to myself, that's my Facebook group. You don't have any right to tell me what I can or can't share in my own group. You don't get to dictate how I use my social media account. But no, still not good enough. She went on a diatribe that lasted 2 days, and a messenger diatribe that lasted at least 2 hours. She's now saying that she's gonna send emails and screenshots to some people who she says are super rich and super influential, and she knows them really well, so she says they're gonna sue me. So after having just about enough of this, I reported her to our group admin, who is my friend, who then reported her to the club committee, citing that she was bothering me as the reason for the complaint. The committee is currently in conference about this and other incidents surrounding this entitled Karen. That way they can decide what to do with her, which is seriously long overdue. According to my friend, this entitled Karen has made loads of enemies, has done nothing but complain, has made outrageous suggestions to the club, and has attacked at least 2 or 3 other members. My incident is just the most recent one in the last 3 months. I'm waiting on my friend to provide an update about this, and if necessary for me to provide evidence of the encounter. My friend was really shocked that this happened, and frankly, so was I. I mean, the entitled Karen was so aggressive defensive about something which really is a non-issue. We both agree that any friendship that existed between us and her was now fully and completely dissolved. Now, the entitled Karen is not going to like that at all because she is all about bragging and making connections, and she loves talking about who she knows and how famous they are. So trust me, she is not going to like this at all, especially if they kick her out of the club. Yeah, it seems like Facebook is really like the harbinger of all Karens. I swear, I've seen some of the worst arguments in my life on Facebook itself, especially in private groups. It's almost like it gives them a license to do and say whatever they want, and they feel emboldened to do that as if there's no consequences. So hopefully, for the sake of your sanity and everybody else's, this entitled Karen gets kicked out sooner than later, because the way she's acting is insane, and you do not deserve to be treated this way in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not giving my parents the baby blanket that my great-grandmother made for me, also that they can use it on my baby sister? Because right now I feel very hurt, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My great-grandmother made a baby blanket for me when my mom was pregnant. She did that for all her kids, grandkids, and then great-grandkids. I was the youngest until now, and my great-grandma would make it clear to parents involved that the baby she made the blankets for should be considered the owners, and it shouldn't be something they keep from us. And so, this is what always happened. I always had mine. My parents did try to take it from me a few times, but my great-grandma stepped in each and every time. Now, I loved mine because she had started experimenting with her knitting, and my blanket is more unique than the rest, and it feels just a little bit more personal. I treasure it despite being a 17-year-old guy, and I treasure it even more because my great-grandmother passed away when I was 10, and I miss her like crazy. So, my parents couldn't have more kids for years. They tried for years, and even did IVF when I was 7, but didn't have another kid from it. So with their focus being so set on that, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. And this is something that extended family brought to their attention a few times. It was comments like, "I just want a baby so bad. I can't imagine my life without a child," which is what my mom would say, and my dad would say, "We feel so incomplete without a baby." And that's how my family members would take notice that things were off. I mean, these were some of the comments that left me feeling as I do. It was never about having another baby. It was always just having a baby, almost like I was invisible. They talked about having a baby being their biggest dream, and it stung so much to have their focus in life around that, and they would get so depressed about not having a baby. My great-grandmother, before she passed away, told them to be thankful for the blessing, aka me, and how they already had a baby, and they were letting me grow up without them. It didn't change anything, and I did basically grow up without my parents, and they now have no idea who my friends are or what's even going on in my life. Now, this was a surprise pregnancy, and my parents are so excited. They did all the early tests to find out that they're having a girl, and now they started shopping and doing all kinds of stuff for her. But then my mom got sad because my great-grandmother isn't around to knit her a blanket too, so they told me that they wanted mine. Now, they didn't ask me for it. Instead, they simply told me, and when I said no, they grew angry. They said that she deserves to have a blanket from great-grandma and that their baby needs one. So I asked them what I was, and they said, "You're almost a grown man." Well, I left the blanket with my best friend because I was afraid my parents would search the house to find it. They were so angry, and they started doing the guilt trips, saying that my baby sister deserves better. And how can I look at myself in the mirror knowing that I don't want to share this with her? They told me that it's like I don't even want her to exist, or I hate her for something and she's not even born yet. So honestly, am I the jerk for not wanting to share my baby blanket? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. No, of course you are not the jerk. Your parents are being awful to you. Instead of taking care of their 17-year-old child and treating them like, I don't know, a member of the family, they're almost pushing you aside and treating this baby like a do-over. So for them to demand your baby blanket is completely out of the question. And I also think it was a really good idea to leave that with your friend, because based on the way they're acting, I'm kind of convinced that they absolutely would have gone out of their way to find that stupid blanket, because they clearly don't care about what you want in the slightest. Like, they literally are going out of their way to make sure that your new baby sister has everything that you never had growing up. So no, you are not the jerk, and hopefully you're able to move out of there at some point, because seriously, the way your family's acting is incredibly inappropriate. An entitled jerk chews me out after I sit in the easily accessible spots near the front of a bus, claiming that I should have given up my spot for him the second I saw him. But instead of ignoring these kinds of comments like I normally would, I decided that I was not going to take that. So I stood up for myself in a way that I I've always wanted to do, and I feel very satisfied that I put this entitled jerk in his place. Here's what happened. So this happened a few months ago, where I was 8 weeks pregnant and feeling pretty nauseous, and I was tired most of the time. While coming home from work one day, I got on the bus and went straight for one of the seats right at the front on the bottom deck, as I wanted to sit close to the exit and no one else seemed to need it. These front seats are easily accessible, and they are for anyone who needs them. There is no definition of what those needs might be, but there are signs asking passengers to give them up to others who may need them more if they are able to. So I was sitting at the front of the bus with another lady next to me, and a few minutes into the journey, this older man gets on. He was probably in his mid-70s and appeared to be perfectly able-bodied in that he used no walking aids and did not appear to be struggling to mobilize. He looked towards the seat that I occupied as he walked past me and told me that those seats were for people like him and that I should have given it up to him when I saw him. He then sat down in the seat directly behind me, which was free. He had to walk all but an extra 2 steps to get to it too, by the way. I very nearly ignored him, but I was quite agitated by his remark, and I didn't want him or anyone else thinking that I had just taken my accessibility seat to be lazy. So I turned around to him and I reminded him that the accessible seats are for anybody who needs them. He looked quite perplexed when I said that, as though he was struggling to process that not everyone who has accessibility needs uses a walking frame or a pair of crutches. He sputtered some rambled reply back, so I cut him off and I told him I was pregnant and I needed to sit down or I was gonna puke. And when I said that, he did not know what to say. So I turned back around and I ignored him for the rest of the journey. I got off the bus before he did, and as the bus was pulling away, I purposefully made eye contact and I gave him the filthiest look I possibly could. He caught my eye for a microsecond before turning away, and hopefully that teaches him a lesson to not try anything like that with someone ever again. Yeah, that's insane to me that someone would actually say something like that in public and be like, wow, you shouldn't sit there. Like, seriously, buddy, you have no right to say that to anybody. She could have been sitting there for any number of reasons, and this entitled old jerk is gonna step up and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make a wild assumption real quick. Like, that is so uncalled for, and there's just no good excuse for that. But for me, I love this story because it shows that you absolutely can always stand up for yourself. You don't always have to take the passive route in life and just take what other people throw your way. You have every right to defend your character and your good name, even when it comes to entitled jerks on the bus. An entitled guy I hired to cut my grass bi-weekly is angry that I didn't remind him to come and cut my grass, and I'm honestly just so blown away by this guy's entitlement. Here's what happened. A while ago, I hired a new guy to come and cut the grass at my house. He did a great job, and he told me that he can cut my grass every 2 weeks for $65 if that sounds good. And I replied, that definitely sounds good. So we agreed that every 2 weeks he would come out and get it cut. He initially cut it on April 22nd, so he was supposed to cut it again on May 6th. And around that time, I think to myself, wait, I know this guy said every 2 weeks, so where is he? Well, he doesn't show up, and I don't really worry about it, as the grass still looks pretty decent to me. Fast forward to May 11th, and the grass was grown, and my neighbor lets me know that he noticed my grass getting tall, and that his uncle cuts grass for many of the houses in our neighborhood. And it turns out that he's cheaper than the original guy. And this really does sound good to me, because the other guy never came around or let me know why he didn't show up. So I just kind of assumed that he wasn't doing it. So I pay for my neighbor's uncle to cut my grass. Fast forward again to May 14th, I get a random text message from the original guy saying that he's on his way to cut my grass. When I read that, I said to him, well, there is no need. We might have to reschedule this because I just got it cut on Saturday. This guy then responds by saying, we agreed that I'd cut it every 2 weeks. Sure, I was a few days over, but you should have called and reminded me. I responded by saying, I remember agreeing to you cutting the grass every 2 weeks, but it's been 22 days since the last cut, so about 3 weeks. So I assumed that you just weren't coming and someone else came along and offered to cut the grass Saturday. Like, he really wanted me to remind him of when to do his job for his business. I really don't think that falls on the customer to remind the company of scheduled appointments. And the company gets upset after essentially going missing in action until randomly texting you again one day saying that they're ready. Like, that is seriously so ridiculous, and I just can't believe that this guy acted this way. Yeah, that's the most backwards way of handling any kind of business I've ever heard of in my life. Like, does this guy not have a phone of some kind with a calendar that he can mark down his appointments? It is not that hard to put down a notification and properly schedule an appointment that you literally made. And you know what? I think the original poster has it right. This guy didn't show up for 3 weeks, and they found someone who does it for a lot cheaper. Like if I was in the original poster shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. So yeah, that guy was super entitled, and if he really wants to stay in business, then he needs to learn how to keep his appointments. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.